The story began on the continent of Shenwu, within the Saint Yuan Demon Sect, deep in the night beneath a moon-stained crimson red. Inside a chamber filled with chain decorations and hanging skulls, candles emitted a dark violet glow. The protagonist lay on the bed, his hands bound. He kept begging the woman he called senior sister to release him. However, the fox woman straddling him did not allow him to escape. She smiled and laughed with excitement, calling him her husband and saying that today was the very day of their wedding. Did he really have the heart to abandon his concubine and leave her alone in an empty room? Between her breasts, the woman took something out, as if deliberately seducing him. The protagonist's name was Zhao Mu. And although it sounded ridiculous, he was truly a transmigrator. The woman before him, indulging her twisted desires by playing different roles, was certainly not his real wife. It had been a year since he transmigrated into the body of a noble young master of this continent, and he even had a marriage contract with a princess of a dynasty. Just as he was about to reach the peak of life, he was suddenly kidnapped by a group of demons from the Saint Yuan Demon Sect. He never imagined that captivity was only the beginning, and that the true nightmare had yet to come. His pure yang constitution was exposed, the finest supplement for cultivating the 9-yin mystic art. The fox woman was overjoyed. As she gazed at the golden energy enveloping Zhao Mu's body, covered with marks of kisses, Zhao Mu realized that no one cared whether a servant disciple lived or died. He had become nothing more than a tool to increase their cultivation. Although he was filled with pure yang energy, he was already on the brink of death. His blood was being drained in that situation. As the fox woman caressed him, he desperately shouted that he did not want to die yet. But she strangled him and, while pulling something from between her breasts, cheerfully told him that dying in her hands was something he should be proud of. The woman opened what she had taken out and said it was a solidifying yang pill. She explained that it could firmly stabilize its effects and stimulate his yang constitution. She immediately poured the pill into his mouth, happily saying that her husband was about to break through in the 9-yin mystic art, so he should not be stingy with a little yang constitution energy. The protagonist had no choice and was forcibly made to swallow the pill. The woman even said that if he could help her break through to the second stage, he should consider it a meaningful death. The pill's effects contorted his face as he repeatedly begged her to let him go, until he finally fell silent and could no longer move. At the same time, the woman lay against his chest, telling him to do his best. In Zhao Mu's mind, before he had even properly seen the world, he wondered whether he would truly be drained to death by the hands of a monster like this. He clenched his fists until they bled, thinking that he would never accept such a fate. He would not give up. Suddenly, a notification appeared stating that an extremely strong desire to live had been detected. The return system had successfully awakened. The system requested the host to bind the system sphere. Zhao Mu was startled and realized that an entire year had passed. He raised his hand, surrounded by golden energy, toward a glowing blue sphere. A message immediately appeared. This system aimed to ensure that every act of giving would receive a return. Anything given by the host could trigger a reward of up to 10,000 times. Zhao Mu smiled confidently and crushed the glowing blue sphere in his hand, saying that the chance to reverse his fate had finally arrived. The binding was successful. A notification appeared stating that the host had received the system late, so compensation was granted. The first return was guaranteed to be 10,000 times. The fox woman was delighted, telling Zhao Mu that while his mouth resisted, his body was honest. Zhao Mu smiled bitterly and cursed inwardly. To survive in the sect as a servant disciple, he set aside his dignity. He removed the collar from his neck and boldly told the fox woman that he would satisfy her right now. The fox woman was shocked. When Zhao Mu stood up and grabbed her shoulders, he took the dominant position. One question lingered in his mind: why these people refused to let him go. In a seductive tone, the fox woman told him not to hold back. He immediately moved and kissed her neck, thinking that since heaven had given him this opportunity, he would take control of his own fate. The fox said that tonight, This place belonged only to the two of them. The next day, the sun was already high. The protagonist still lay there, nearly skin and bones. The fox woman stood beside him, stretching lazily, her tail wagging happily. She said that although he had given only a small amount of Yang power, his performance last night was not bad. She transformed into a human and said it was a pity about the solidifying Yang pills. If he survived, she would look for him again for even more enjoyable games. Exhausted and weak, the protagonist could not even speak and could only force a bitter smile. Suddenly, a red notification appeared. His pure Yang power had been completely drained by the 9-charm Heavenly Fox, triggering the 10,000-fold return. He received a reward. The red Yang sacred body, and empowerment began. He screamed in pain as violent energy surged through him. When the red Yang sacred body fully activated, golden symbols flowed across his entire body. Another notification appeared, stating that he had broken through to the 3rd level of Qi refining, followed by the 4th, all the way to the 10th level, the Great Circle. As golden energy and markings surrounded his body, he wondered if this was the power of a sacred body. But he also realized that this was not the time to show off. The golden energy gradually faded as he adjusted his hair. He realized that the Saint Yuan Demon Sect was filled with powerful experts. If his secret were exposed, his fate would be even more tragic. He needed to take advantage of the time when no one was paying attention to accumulate strength. After putting on his clothes, he stepped outside and pondered. Spirit stones were the foundation of cultivation. With his current red Yang sacred body, he could earn money through private dealings, but he dismissed the idea. He was now a man with a system. Moreover, most people were not wealthy. 3 or 4 spirit stones were already considered decent. He wondered if there was another way to quickly earn spirit stones. While walking, he suddenly stopped and turned his head. He saw Wang Chan, an outsider disciple of the Heihuan sect, cultivating. Wang Chan was drenched in sweat, emitting blue energy. Zhao Mu remembered the help Wang Chan had given him when he first entered the sect. It was time to repay that kindness. He took out the 200 spirit stones he had saved and threw them at Wang Chan's head. Wang Chan was shocked, picked up the stones, and assumed that a powerful figure in the sect had helped him. A notification appeared. He had given 200 spirit stones and triggered a 500-fold return. He received 100,000 spirit stones. He was ecstatic as spirit stones rained down, saying that making money this way was easy. But to him, 100,000 spirit stones were still insignificant. If he could trigger a 10,000-fold return, it would amount to 2 million spirit stones. In the future, everyone who oppressed and humiliated him would be made to repay him 10,000 times, or even 1,000,000 times. He tried again, throwing all the spirit stones given by the system. Wang Chan almost screamed in shock, asking what was happening. Scratching his head, he wondered why spirit stones were raining from the sky. Had he, Wang Chan, encountered a great benefactor? He happily said that the senior who gave him these stones could rest assured. He would double his efforts in cultivation and never disappoint them. The protagonist realized that the system showed no reaction. He was disappointed. As expected, the system could not be abused. Suddenly, someone called his name, startling him. A woman holding a long sword appeared before him, asking whether he was still not dead. Zhao Mu's gaze sharpened instantly. He immediately recognized the woman. It was Lu Qi. Zhao Mu bowed respectfully and greeted senior sister Lu Qi, his movements proper and his voice filled with deference. He quietly observed Lu Qi's serious and cold demeanor. She was a female cultivator, an outer disciple of the Saint Yuan Demon Sect, and a practitioner of the 9 Yin mystic art. When Zhao Mu had first entered the sect, Lu Qi had taken meticulous care of him, almost like a true elder sister. However, after Chu Zhaoran's warning, her attitude toward him changed abruptly. She distanced herself completely, as though an invisible boundary had been drawn between them. At the same time, Lu Qi had not failed to notice the rapid rise in Zhao Mu's cultivation. As she examined him, Her conviction grew stronger. The pure yang constitution he possessed was far more powerful than she had initially believed. When she mentioned this, Zhao Mu merely smiled faintly and replied politely, saying it was nothing more than praise and that everything was due to luck. Before long, Lu Qi suddenly grabbed Zhao Mu's hand and pulled him away. With a flick of her wrist, she summoned her sword, which shot upward, wrapped in brilliant azure energy. She informed Zhao Mu that Chu Jiaoren would soon enter seclusion cultivation to attempt a breakthrough. While Chu Jiaoren was absent, Zhao Mu would temporarily assist her cultivation. The sword gradually expanded until it was large enough for two people to ride. Lu Qi carefully supported Zhao Mu, and together they stepped onto the massive blade, which swiftly soared into the sky. As they flew, Zhao Mu sat down and instinctively wrapped his arms around Lu Qi's waist, telling her to slow down a little. Lu Qi was startled by the sudden contact, and her cheeks immediately flushed red. After a moment, she remarked that it had only been a few months since they last met, yet the change in Zhao Mu's cultivation aura was astonishing. She asked whether he had gained some benefit from that flirtatious fox, Shu Sharon. There was a trace of grievance in Zhao Mu's voice as he replied that it was always Sister Shu who took advantage of him instead. How could he possibly gain any benefits under such circumstances? Lu Qi explained that demons were never truly kind. If he continued to comply with them, one day his vitality would be drained completely, and he would die. Lu Qi said that once she broke through to the core formation realm, she would challenge Chu Jiaoren. If she won, Zhao Mu would then obey her. Upon hearing this, Zhao Mu immediately hugged Lu Qi tightly around the waist and said that in that case, he would rely entirely on senior sister Lu Qi's care. Lu Qi frowned at how close he was, while Zhao Mu, in his heart, could not understand the true meaning of the words, obey her. What kind of person did they think he was? After several hours of travel, they arrived at the inner sect of the Saint Yuan Demon Sect. Entering a room, Lu Qi informed Zhao Mu that she was on the verge of breaking through to the core formation realm. If Zhao Mu could help her succeed smoothly, she would reward him with vitality pills. She instructed him to sit and wait while she went to bathe. Zhao Mu smiled upon hearing this, and a subtle plan slowly formed in his mind. Inside the bath chamber, Lu Qi gently removed her clothes and submerged herself in warm water filled with flower petals. She let out a deep breath, thinking that nothing could go wrong now and that everything would proceed smoothly. The warm water gradually relaxed her body. Suddenly, she was startled when she sensed Zhao Mu's presence behind her. Smiling, he asked what it was she had meant by saying everything would surely go well. She immediately covered herself and cried out, demanding to know why he had entered. Zhao Mu explained that time was precious and that it would be faster if they bathed together. As he slipped into the water, he pulled Lu Qi toward him and softly said that in that case, they should begin. Lu Qi was left speechless. Her cheeks flushed crimson as she quietly gazed at Zhao Mu. At that moment, they began cultivating the marvelous 9-yin mystic art. Lu Qi let out a soft moan and could not help but remark that Zhao Mu's pure yang constitution was overwhelmingly dominant. After some time, Lu Qi was nearly drained of strength. Panting, she leaned back weakly, her cheeks still red. Zhao Mu remarked that he had not expected senior sister Lu Qi to cultivate the 9-yin mystic art, but she immediately cut him off, saying he already knew enough and should not mention it aloud again. Zhao Mu promptly agreed. With sorrow in her voice, Lu Qi said that she would be getting married the following month. The name of her future husband was Long Tianxiang, someone Zhao Mu should already know. Zhao Mu was utterly shocked by the name. Rage surged within him, for he knew that Long Tianxiang had broken through to the nascent soul realm before the age of 30 and was recognized as a supreme genius unseen in the Saint Yuan Demon Sect for 1,000 years. Moreover, he had comprehended sword intent and was a powerful expert ranked among heaven's pride. Zhao Mu clutched his head and said that if Long Tianxiang were to find out about what had happened, wouldn't that be equivalent to putting a green hat on such a formidable figure? He stopped mid-sentence when Lu Qi suddenly approached him. Gently stroking his chest, she told Zhao Mu to rest assured. When Long Tianxiang cultivated an ancient sword manual, his meridians had been damaged, and his body had become abnormal. As long as she said nothing, no outsider would ever discover what they had done. Lu Qi added that if she truly did not like Zhao Mu, did he really think she would give him the most precious thing she possessed? Zhao Mu was deeply moved by her words and immediately kissed her with intense tenderness. When their lips parted, he said that senior sister Lu Qi was close to breaking through and that they should continue their efforts. Lu Qi responded by softly calling him a fool. The next morning, after their exertions, Lu Qi was utterly exhausted and fell into a deep sleep. Meanwhile, Zhao Mu was overjoyed when a system window suddenly appeared before him. Because his red yang power had been depleted, an 800-fold return was triggered, greatly increasing the strength of his red yang sacred body. Golden energy and runic symbols surged once more throughout his body. This was followed by a notification congratulating him on breaking through to the foundation establishment stage. He happily reflected that in such a short time, he had already surpassed the threshold of the foundation establishment realm. At this pace, even if he were to face Long Tianxiang and the Long family, he would not be afraid. He glanced lightly at Lu Qi's still sleeping, alluring body. A thought occurred to him, and he moved closer, gently waking her to ask for his reward. She handed it over immediately, praising him as truly remarkable and saying she had nearly been overwhelmed and needed more rest. Zhao Mu opened the container and saw 10 vitality pills. He cheerfully remarked that senior sister Lu Qi was indeed generous. Since he needed to give pills anyway, why search far when his target was right here? He took one vitality pill and gently placed it into the mouth of the sleeping Lu Qi. Moments later, a notification appeared stating that he had given a second-grade vitality pill, triggering a 30-fold return and granting him a third-grade vitality pill. Zhao Mu wondered why the return was only 30-fold. This was not ideal for him. Nevertheless, he smiled as he looked at the remaining 9 pills. He still had 9 chances left. Even if it did not reach 10,000-fold, a 1,000-fold return would be more than enough. He once again gave the pills to the still sleeping Lu Qi. A notification appeared, stating that he had given a second-grade vitality pill, triggering a 3,000-fold return. Zhao Mu was utterly astonished as he saw golden energy slowly emerge from Lu Qi's sleeping body. In his palm, a golden pill surrounded by green energy appeared. A smile finally spread across his face. A notification appeared, informing him that he had obtained a 7th-grade marrow cleansing pill. While Zhao Mu held the glowing pill in his hand, overwhelming joy showed on his face when he realized what it was. A marrow cleansing pill, a treasure regarded as priceless in the cultivation world. According to what he knew, this pill could stabilize the body's foundation and strengthen vitality like an origin-nurturing pill, but those were only secondary effects. Its true and most important function was to improve a cultivator's root bone aptitude, which directly determined a person's talent limit and future potential. Although Zhao Mu had been born with a pure yang constitution, something considered extraordinary among mortals, he knew it was still far from enough compared to the real geniuses within his sect. If he wanted to catch up to those at the top, he had to push his own limits even further. Driven by his intense desire to grow stronger, Zhao Mu did not hesitate. He immediately swallowed the shining pill and began the transformation. Almost at once, a powerful surge of energy flowed through his body, making his blood boil and his meridians burn. A fierce aura and blazing light burst out around him as he struggled to control and refine the wild energy inside. Sitting in his cultivation posture, fully focused, he continuously refined the medicinal power until his entire body was wrapped in blazing radiance, clearly showing how intense and profound the process was. After absorbing the pill's power, an unexpected effect appeared. His body began expelling massive amounts of filth and impurities that had been buried deep in his marrow for a long time. The foul stench immediately caught Lu Qi's attention, making her cover her nose and tell Zhao Mu to take a bath at once. Zhao Mu sniffed himself and realized the smell was truly unbearable, so he went straight to the bathroom. Testing his new strength, he used only his glowing energy to turn on the shower without touching it. Standing under the rushing water, he washed away all the dirt and grime while remaining calm and clear-minded after successfully enhancing his talent. As Lu Qi watched him, she could not hide her shock. She could not believe that in such a short time, Zhao Mu had broken through to the Foundation establishment realm. She asked whether the origin nurturing pill was really that powerful, since in her understanding, reaching that level should not result in such an extreme purification. As she touched Zhao Mu's smooth, almost flawless skin, her doubts grew stronger. The cleanliness and purity of his body went far beyond what should be possible at his current level, making her suspect that he must have taken something else as well. Zhao Mu felt uneasy inside, knowing it would be difficult to explain how he had obtained a marrow cleansing pill. To divert Lu Qi's attention, he joked that everything was simply the result of their dual cultivation. He even teased her, saying that despite all their effort together, she still had not reached core formation. His words made Lu Qi lean against the wall, her face red with embarrassment and shock, unable to respond. Zhao Mu did not stop. He moved closer and whispered that perhaps she had not tried hard enough, offering to help her again without asking for anything in return. He even asked if she no longer cared about her own life, explaining that he was only doing all this to help his senior sister break through faster. Later, after everything was over, Lu Qi lay exhausted on the bed, barely able to move. Zhao Mu had already straightened his clothes and said goodbye, reminding her not to rush her breakthrough. At that moment, a system message appeared before his eyes, confirming that he had obtained pure yang energy, triggering a 10-fold return and slightly strengthening his red yang power. As he walked down the stairs, he felt an unusual lightness throughout his body and grew even more impressed by the power of the Foundation establishment realm. Zhao Mu had long dreamed of owning a flying sword so he could freely travel through the skies and across vast seas. That night, he went to the outer sect marketplace and was fortunate enough to find a rare weapon. Holding the wooden case, the vendor repeatedly thanked him for his generosity. The sword, called Star Guarding Slayer, was forged from meteorite iron that came from beyond the world. Engraved into its body was a star vortex array capable of absorbing power from the stars to further increase the sword's sharpness and might. Even though it cost 30,000 spirit stones, Zhao Mu bought it without hesitation, thinking about the great returns he could receive by gifting it to others in the future. While he was admiring his new weapon, a huge man suddenly blocked his path, calling him, "Pretty boy," and saying he had been looking for him. This man was Niu Tai, an outer disciple who had long been obsessed with and courting senior sister Chu Jiaoran. Zhao Mu remembered that Niu Tai had tried to cause him trouble several times before, only to be stopped each time by Chu Jiaoran. Niu Tai was a Foundation establishment cultivator with an ox demon bloodline, making him far stronger than ordinary cultivators of the same realm. Instead of feeling afraid, Zhao Mu was excited, believing this was the perfect opponent to test his current strength as Niu Tai's blazing aura flared. Once they faced each other, Niu Tai could no longer contain his rage. He grabbed Zhao Mu by the collar and shouted, saying he had heard Zhao Mu had met Chu Jiaoran again, and his jealousy burned fiercely as he demanded the truth. Despite the threat, Zhao Mu remained calm. He firmly grasped Niu Tai's hand and, with a teasing look, asked what it would matter if it were true. That only made Niu Tai angrier. Veins bulged on his arms as powerful energy shook the surroundings, and with a furious roar, he charged forward, telling Zhao Mu to die. Yet Zhao Mu calmly caught Niu Tai's punch with just one hand, shocking his opponent with how effortless it looked. Smiling, Zhao Mu said he still wanted to live because he wanted to stay with and play with senior sister Chu. Niu Tai could not believe Zhao Mu had also reached the Foundation establishment realm, but he forced himself to remain confident, saying Zhao Mu should not think they were equals just because of a breakthrough. His aura flared even more as he unleashed a storm of fast punches that surrounded Zhao Mu, but Zhao Mu easily dodged them all, even mocking that although Niu Tai's punches were strong, they were far too slow. In his heart, Zhao Mu realized how extraordinary his red yang sacred body truly was. Even just after his breakthrough, he could already match someone like Niu Tai, who ranked among the top 100 of the outer sect. Finally, as Niu Tai's attacks continued to fail, Zhao Mu coldly said this comedy should end. In the next instant, he launched a powerful punch wrapped in blazing flames. Niu Tai could not dodge it in time. Blood sprayed from his mouth as intense pain twisted his face, and the so-called boss Niu collapsed to the ground, eyes wide open as he lost consciousness. His horned followers stood frozen in disbelief, unable to understand how someone as young as Zhao Mu had suddenly become so powerful. One of them still tried to threaten Zhao Mu, asking if he knew the status of the Niu family within the sect after what he had done to their leader. Zhao Mu calmly replied that he had only given him a reminder. Raising his hand, he summoned a flying sword wrapped in blue light and flicked it into the wall beside the man's head, making him tremble in fear. Zhao Mu coldly explained that the sword was worth 30,000 spirit stones, more than enough to cover Boss Niu's medical expenses. At the same time, a blue system screen appeared, announcing that by giving away a second-grade flying sword, he had triggered a 1000-fold return, producing a 5th-grade flying sword called Heavenly Star Hunter. Zhao Mu glanced at it with mild impatience, saying it was rather ordinary, before turning and walking away, leaving the group stunned and speechless in the middle of the road. As he walked off, two of Boss Niu's followers suddenly attacked from behind, flying through the air with their weapons glowing purple. Before they could reach him, a terrifying aura erupted from Zhao Mu. His long hair stood on end, his eyes glowing red, as he warned them not to blame him if he showed no mercy. In a flash, a terrifying blue streak cut through the air so fast it could not even be seen. The next moment, weapons clattered to the ground, followed by screams of pain as the two attackers collapsed, clutching their wounded arms and shoulders, crying out in confusion about who had struck them. In the tense silence, a woman spoke up, her hand glowing red as she boldly asked why they still dared to complain when they were the ones who had started the trouble. The beautiful woman, Mu Juling, walked forward with her long weapon in hand and firmly said she had personally seen them attempt a sneak attack first. As Mu Juling slowly approached, Zhao Mu scratched her head. When she reached him, she suddenly scolded him, angrily shouting while pointing a finger at his face, blaming him for being careless and reckless in his decisions. As her gaze shifted coldly toward Boss Niu's two subordinates, Mu Juling reminded Zhao Mu that she had told him long ago, when facing an enemy, merely retaliating was never enough. One had to uproot everything completely to truly put an end to it. Hearing this, the two subordinates of Boss Niu immediately flew into a rage and shouted back at Mu Juling. They mocked her words as arrogant nonsense and openly questioned who she even thought she was. With sneers on their faces, they even asked whether she knew who their boss was. At that moment, Mu Juling's eyes suddenly changed, glowing with a terrifying red light. With unwavering confidence, she introduced herself as Mu Juling and coldly asked whether they had a problem with her. The overwhelming pressure that erupted from her caused the two subordinates to tremble in fear. They exchanged glances, repeatedly murmuring her name as terror filled their faces. Once they finally realized who she was, they immediately turned and fled. Recognizing her as a senior sister from the inner sect, they hurriedly urged each other to escape and prayed that Mu Juling would not remember their faces. As they ran, one of them shouted that they were only following Boss Niu's orders and had nothing to do with the incident. Mu Juling clicked her tongue in annoyance as she watched them disappear, coldly mocking them as a bunch of cowards. She then turned her attention back to Zhao Mu and pointed at him. Startled, Zhao Mu asked what he had done wrong. Instead of answering, Mu Juling suddenly grabbed his arm and pulled him into her embrace, pressing him tightly against her chest. Her cheeks flushed red as she asked if he had already forgotten. If anything dangerous were to happen, all he needed to do was mention her name. Zhao Mu was left speechless by what he heard. Mu Juling added that it was fortunate she had been there, because if Zhao Mu had died, she would have no one left to marry. Zhao Mu forced a smile as sweat trickled down his face. In his thoughts, he recalled that ever since he had first entered the sect, this woman had been quietly watching him. She was not after his pure yang power. Instead, he confidently believed the real reason was his looks and appearance. Mu Juling of the Saint Yuan Demon Sect clearly possessed a side of her personality that others never expected. Zhao Mu pinched Mu Juling's cheek and agreed with her. Calmly, he said that he was not as easy to kill as others thought. Mu Juling smiled and replied that her future husband could not be allowed to face any danger. With a smile, she beckoned Zhao Mu to follow her. The two of them ran through the bustling streets, and moments later, they soared into the sky, enveloped in a radiant red aura emanating from Mu Juling. As they flew, Zhao Mu squinted one eye, thinking that flying freely through the air without a flying sword was an ability only core formation cultivators possessed. He could not help but wonder just how high Mu Juling's cultivation truly was. After a short while, they arrived at their destination and gently landed, leaving streaks of red energy lingering in the sky. Under the glowing moonlight, Zhao Mu noticed golden energy flowing all around them. He felt an incredibly dense spiritual aura and wondered whether this was the sacred core land of the Saint Yuan Demon Sect. His thoughts were interrupted when Mu Juling invited him inside, saying that this was her residence. As Zhao Mu looked around, he wondered if this was the dwelling of a personal disciple. Inside, he examined the surroundings and asked whether she truly lived there. Mu Juling explained that she only came occasionally when she had free time to read and rest, and that she rarely stayed there for long. She suddenly leapt onto the bed and lay down happily. In a gentle tone, she asked Zhao Mu why he was still standing there as if dazed and ordered him to come over immediately. Zhao Mu warned her not to test him, as his self-control was limited. Mu Juling scolded him, calling him a womanizer and rebuking the chaotic thoughts in his head. Without warning, Mu Juling tossed two books toward him. Zhao Mu immediately recognized them, the true chapter of sword control and the One Qi Mystic Hearth sword art. He could not help but wonder how she knew he wanted to cultivate sword control. Smiling, Mu Juling explained that she knew Zhao Mu had recently broken through to the foundation establishment stage and had purchased a flying sword, making his intention obvious. She added that she would also give him a flying sword. Tossing a container to Zhao Mu, she explained that the sword was a 4th-grade weapon with a cold attribute called Frost Foil. According to her, it was best suited to suppress the pure yang fire within Zhao Mu's body and could also help keep his mind free from improper thoughts. Zhao Mu forced a smile and admitted that Mu Juling was indeed very considerate. She suddenly stood up and told him to stay there for a few days to cultivate sword control, leaving the rest to her. As she walked out, she added that since Zhao Mu had already surpassed the foundation establishment stage, he no longer needed to remain a servant disciple, and someone would assist in upgrading his disciple token to the outer sect. Hearing this, Zhao Mu seriously asked who she really was. Before closing the door, Mu Juling smiled and said that she was the person he would marry in the near future. With that, she slammed the door shut. Only then did Zhao Mu realize that Mu Juling was truly a master at flirting. He pushed aside his wandering thoughts and decided that focusing on cultivating sword control was far more important. Sitting down, he began his cultivation using the flying sword, wrapping it in radiant golden energy in his hands. Pages from the book fluttered into the air, the words lingering and glowing in golden light. However, moments later, he suddenly collapsed onto the floor, gasping heavily for breath. He wondered whether the marrow cleansing pill had failed to improve his innate talent. He also questioned why sword control remained so difficult to grasp. Rising to his feet, he doubted whether the pill only affected the physical body and not the depth of comprehension. Even with a system, if his comprehension was weak, he felt he would ultimately fail. At that moment, a small white beast resembling a tiny bear suddenly appeared before him. The two stared at each other before Zhao Mu approached and spoke to it seriously. He thought that if primordial yang could be considered a form of giving, then perhaps comprehension could also serve as a source for system returns. A sinister grin spread across his face as he looked at the trembling little bear and remarked that it seemed bored. An idea came to him. He would teach it the multiplication table. Pressing his mouth close to the beast's ear, he recited the words one by one. Moments later, a notification appeared. Knowledge had been transferred to the demon beast, triggering a 100-fold return. The system immediately confirmed a massive increase in the host's comprehension, causing Zhao Mu's eyes to widen in shock. His idea had truly worked. After his comprehension rose, the protagonist immediately entered cultivation. He sat quietly with his back straight and slowly closed his eyes. The air around him seemed to stir, and moments later, glowing pages began to float into the air, pages bathed in brilliant golden light. From them emerged shimmering characters, twisting and circling like living symbols of knowledge as they gently flowed into his consciousness. After some time, he opened his eyes. A faint smile appeared on his face. His sword rose into the air on its own, wrapped in pure, powerful golden energy that flowed directly from his hand. In a low voice, he muttered that the result wasn't bad at all. The kung fu that had once been overlooked, treated as nothing more than an ordinary technique, now unfolded effortlessly before him. He no longer needed repeated practice or deep contemplation. Its principles and flow entered his mind naturally, as if they had always belonged there. He could clearly feel the leap in his comprehension. Yet despite this improvement, he quickly realized a harsh truth. Even with this level of understanding, it still wasn't enough in this world. He paused in thought. As a transmigrator, his aptitude was still lacking. This world was too cruel, its standards too high, to rely on talent at this level alone. Suddenly, his gaze shifted to the demon beast in front of him. A new idea sparked in his eyes. He walked over, picked it up with a smile, and spoke. Seeing how eager it was to learn, he said that as its teacher, he would instruct it in a new subject, something called geometry theorems. He began teaching the demon beast immediately. At the same time, a system notification appeared. Because he had taught knowledge related to calculus, a 100-fold return was triggered. His comprehension surged dramatically. It felt as if invisible walls in his mind were collapsing all at once, expanding his understanding in every direction. Then another message appeared. His current comprehension had reached the upper limit of his present strength stage. It could not increase further. Only then did he truly understand. Comprehension had a ceiling. At this level of understanding, comprehending his existing cultivation methods was no longer a problem. One by one, he tested them. First, Vajra Fist. His fist shone with a dazzling golden aura. Next, Wind Red Thunder Art, crimson lightning cascading downward and releasing a terrifying presence that made the demon beast tremble. Finally, 3 Talents 6 Fates Divination Art. A red symbol appeared in his palm, while a massive golden sigil manifested behind him, deepening the demon beast's fear. Yet he quickly realized something else. All of these were unrated yellow rank techniques, too crude for him at his current level. Still, he had already mastered them completely. Once outside, he could write them down and share them with others, farming massive return rewards. Suddenly, the demon beast showed interest. It approached him with a bone clenched in its mouth, offering it to him. Slightly surprised, Zhao Mu accepted it gratefully and said he would make soup with it later. But at that moment, the bone released a purple aura. He immediately realized what it was. Chaos Xuanming Art. He smiled and sat down. He hadn't expected such a small demon beast to gift him a technique. The system detected it instantly and began the learning process automatically. However, when Zhao Mu tried to comprehend it, a sharp pain exploded in his head. Purple aura surrounded him as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His breathing became labored as he stared at the bone. Cursing under his breath, he realized that even with comprehension at the limit of the Foundation establishment realm, he still couldn't understand it. That led him to a realization. Could this be an Earth rank technique? Or perhaps, even Heaven rank? While he was struggling, a voice called out from the doorway. Mu Juling had arrived. Seeing Zhao Mu's condition, she immediately asked what had happened. In her heart, she blamed herself, thinking she had given him a technique that was far too difficult. Zhao Mu quickly denied it, but Mu Juling stopped him. She said cultivation should never be rushed. She brought food and insisted they eat first. She personally fed him, her movements gentle and her gaze captivating, urging him to eat more as she placed each bite into his mouth. As this happened, a thought crossed Zhao Mu's mind. If Mu Juling was here, then did that mean? He cut off the thought. Taking advantage of the moment, he handed her the chaos Xuanming art, saying she might be able to make better use of it. Mu Juling was shocked when she saw it and asked where he got it. Zhao Mu explained that a small demon beast had given it to him, but it was simply too profound for him to comprehend. At that moment, the system activated again. Because he had gifted an Earth rank technique, a 60-fold return was triggered. The reward appeared instantly, an Earth rank high-grade technique, pure Yang Xuanming art. A scroll materialized before him, glowing with intense golden light. But it didn't stop there. The system detected that the technique was compatible with his red Yang sacred body and asked whether he wanted immediate empowerment. He agreed without hesitation. He then ended the conversation. He didn't know how long the empowerment would take, and he couldn't let Mu Juling grow suspicious. Moments later, Mu Juling suddenly shouted in anger. She complained that her technique had been stolen again, and that Zhao Mu had nearly died because of it. Confused, he asked what she meant. Mu Juling explained that it was a good thing he hadn't forced cultivation. With his pure Yang constitution and the chaos attribute of the chaos Xuanming art, the two clashed violently. If he had persisted, his meridians could have exploded, killing him on the spot. Only then did Zhao Mu fully understand. The problem wasn't his comprehension. It was incompatibility with his constitution. Mu Juling went on to explain that his constitution was extremely rare, and only a handful of techniques could suit him. Gathering them would take time. For now, it was better for him to cultivate basic introductory techniques and accumulate experience. Despite everything, Zhao Mu couldn't help but ask. Why was Mu Juling treating him so well? What was she really planning? Instead of avoiding the question, Mu Juling answered directly. With a seductive voice and graceful movements, she said she had already surrendered to him. She wanted Zhao Mu to become her Dao companion. If that happened, she promised that within the Saint Yuan Demon Sect, he would never lack fine food, fine wine, and no one would dare harm him. Zhao Mu was left speechless. Then, the atmosphere changed abruptly. A voice shouted, "Nonsense!" A terrifying aura swept through the area. In an instant, the house was shattered by overwhelming purple energy. Mu Juling immediately worried about Zhao Mu, who nearly collapsed under the crushing pressure. When Zhao Mu looked up, he saw a woman floating in the air. Who was this person, possessing such a terrifying presence? Beside him, Mu Juling asked in shock why her master had come. Only then did Zhao Mu understand. This woman was Mu Juling's master. In a heavy, chilling voice, the woman asked what they were doing, and whether her arrival had ruined a perfectly good moment. Mu Juling bowed deeply before her master, her posture respectful and restrained. In a calm yet heavy voice, she replied that her disciple would never dare to act out of line. Her master spoke slowly. She said that Mu Juling was the most important disciple she had, the one she had personally groomed to inherit her position as the saintess of the sect. As she spoke, she descended gently to the ground, and with her landing came an overwhelming surge of purple energy that flooded the surroundings. She ordered Mu Juling to take a good look at herself. Not only had she failed to cultivate properly, she had even hidden a servant disciple inside her residence, to flirt and indulge in pleasure. As the saintess's purple aura spread outward, Zhao Mu finally understood. No wonder the woman before them possessed such terrifying presence and authority. She was the saintess herself. Mu Juling's master. Without hesitation, Mu Juling dropped to her knees. Her body trembled as she begged for forgiveness, openly admitting her mistake. In response, the saintess's aura flared even more violently. With a flick of her hand, a sword appeared, and she spoke coldly. Since Mu Juling knew she was wrong, she would be given one chance. The saintess slammed the sword into the ground between them. The sound alone sent fear through their hearts. In an icy tone, she commanded Mu Juling to kill the servant disciple with her own hands, to sever the root of her emotions. After that, she would return to Purple Cloud Peak and enter closed-door cultivation for 30 years. Overcome with fear, Mu Juling rushed forward and tightly hugged her master's leg. On the verge of tears, she pleaded desperately, saying that Zhao Mu had nothing to do with this. If she killed him, it would damage her Dao heart, and she feared her cultivation would come to a complete halt. The saintess stared down at her coldly. Her eyes were empty of emotion as she asked, quietly yet dangerously, whether Mu Juling was challenging her authority. In the next instant, an even more terrifying aura erupted from her body. The ground shook violently, the surroundings trembled, and everything seemed to lift into the air. Under that crushing pressure, both Mu Juling and Zhao Mu felt their bodies quake. At that moment, Zhao Mu wondered, would the saintess truly kill her own disciple? He didn't hesitate. Stepping forward, Zhao Mu released radiant golden energy from his body. When he reached Mu Juling, she turned to him, her eyes filled with fear and uncertainty. But Zhao Mu showed no doubt. He pulled her into a firm embrace and urged her to draw upon his spiritual power. The saintess immediately noticed something unusual. This was no ordinary pure yang body. If she wasn't mistaken, Zhao Mu had awakened the red yang sacred body. Zhao Mu acknowledged her sharp perception. The golden energy flowing through him surged outward, strengthening them both as he supported Mu Juling. The saintess fell silent in thought. She knew how rare the red yang sacred body was, how terrifying such a constitution could be. The man Mu Juling had chosen truly possessed extraordinary potential. In the tense silence, Mu Juling suddenly joked that if she had known Zhao Mu possessed the red yang sacred body earlier, she would have tied him up and taken advantage of him long ago. The saintess cleared her throat loudly. Startled, both of them bowed immediately. Mu Juling hurriedly apologized, saying she had spoken without thinking. Zhao Mu laughed lightly and added that it was just nonsense. In the end, the saintess said she would let the matter go. For Mu Juling's sake, she would spare Zhao Mu for now. She ordered him to return to the outer sect and continue cultivating. Until he reached the nascent soul realm, he was strictly forbidden from approaching Mu Juling again. Wrapped in purple energy, Mu Juling was lifted into the air by the saintess. Zhao Mu could only watch as they disappeared from sight. He rubbed his head, still shaken by the saintess's terrifying power. If she had wanted him dead, a single thought would have been enough. One truth was now clear to him. He needed to become much stronger. Back at the servant quarters, Zhao Mu entered his home. Despite the danger he had faced, he had gained an Earth-rank high-grade cultivation technique and a 4th-grade flying sword. He immediately instructed the system to begin empowerment, and it confirmed the process. As he sat down to cultivate, fierce flames suddenly erupted, illuminating his entire body. He was shocked by how fast his cultivation progressed. He suspected it was the combined effect of the pure Yang Xuanming art and the red Yang sacred body. Soon, the system notified him that the ambient spiritual energy was insufficient and that it would automatically absorb energy instead. After he agreed, countless spirit stones appeared around him. One by one, they floated into the air, dissolved, and transformed into pure spiritual energy that surged around him. A satisfied smile appeared on his face as the aura continued to flow. From outside his residence, a golden glow was clearly visible. After several hours, the energy finally settled. When Zhao Mu checked his surroundings, he realized he had consumed 70,000 spirit stones in a single night. Still, breaking through to the 3rd layer of the Foundation establishment realm in such a short time was more than acceptable. Stepping outside, he yawned and stretched, thinking it was time to find a way to earn money. Suddenly, several figures blocked his path, calling his name while laughing mockingly. At their center stood Hu Chang, a servant disciple at the 8th layer of Qi refining. With a grin, he said he had heard that senior sister Chu had given Zhao Mu many benefits, and asked whether he planned to show some gratitude to his fellow brothers. Hu Chang was notorious in the servant quarters, a bully who relied on his cultivation to oppress both men and women. Once, a new servant disciple talked back to him and was beaten to death that same night. Zhao Mu smiled calmly and called Hu Chang a beast to his face. He said Hu Chang had been stealing from others for years and must have accumulated plenty of spirit stones by now. Enraged, Hu Chang charged forward. His hand transformed into a tiger-like claw as red aura wrapped around his body. But before the attack could land, Zhao Mu casually dodged it. In a cold voice, Zhao Mu said it was far too slow, mocking him for thinking such an attack could win. Before Hu Chang could react, a heavy punch slammed into his face. Hu Chang was sent flying back into his companions, blood spraying as he coughed violently. As his companions rushed to check on him, Hu Chang stared in disbelief. He demanded to know if that really was Zhao Mu, and whether he had truly broken into the Foundation establishment realm. Zhao Mu grinned. A blazing red aura burst from his body. His answer was simple. Isn't it obvious? Hu Chang slowly forced himself to his feet, one hand tightly clutching his blood-soaked face. Blood continued to drip between his fingers as he roared in fury at his companions, shouting for them to stop standing around and watching. He ordered them to attack together. The two men responded immediately. Flaming energy erupted from their bodies, their eyes glowing a fierce crimson. With loud shouts, they charged straight toward Zhao Mu, clearly intending to beat him down without mercy. Their heavy punches flew at the same time. Zhao Mu stepped back calmly, narrowly avoiding both attacks with ease. Those watching from nearby were stunned. No one could believe that junior brother Zhao Mu had already broken through to the Foundation establishment realm. Yet along with their shock came concern. He had only just advanced, and facing multiple Qi refining stage opponents at once was still extremely dangerous. Senior brother Wang Chan was also present and immediately warned Zhao Mu to be careful. At that moment, Zhao Mu took in a deep breath. A red glow slowly gathered between his fingers. With a sharp flick of his hand, the energy exploded outward. The two muscular men were blasted backward, sent flying through the air as Zhao Mu coldly ordered them to get lost. He let out a steady breath and glanced at his own fist. Suddenly, Hu Chang leapt forward. In the blink of an eye, Hu Chang's body transformed, his figure expanding and twisting into the shape of a ferocious tiger. Rage burned in his eyes as he cursed Zhao Mu, screaming that he would kill him. Before the attack could fully land, Zhao Mu turned his head slightly, a faint smile forming on his lips. Crimson energy surged into his fist once more, and he threw a devastating punch. Hu Chang was sent flying, spinning through the air with blood spraying from his face, before crashing straight into one of his fallen companions. The man let out a scream of pain as they collided. Hu Chang struggled to rise, snarling as he warned Zhao Mu not to get complacent. But before he could act again, Zhao Mu appeared behind him without warning. His leg, wrapped in red energy, lashed out in a powerful kick. The energy detonated on impact. Blood splattered as Zhao Mu coldly ordered Hu Chang to shut up. The surrounding crowd erupted. Cheers and applause thundered through the area as people shouted in praise. Zhao Mu had vented the anger they had been forced to swallow for far too long. These tiger demons were notorious bullies. No one had expected them to finally crash into an iron wall. Zhao Mu raised a hand, signaling everyone to quiet down. He asked for a moment. Then, using his energy, he extracted the spirit stones one by one from Hu Chang's body. He stated clearly that these stones had been stolen over time, and today, he was returning them to their rightful owners. The atmosphere instantly changed. Shock mixed with excitement as Zhao Mu tossed the spirit stones back into the crowd. People scrambled to catch them, voices rising in loud cheers. Long live Zhao Mu. At the same time, a notification appeared in his mind. He had given away 9,000 spirit stones, triggering a 1,000-fold return, and received 9 million spirit stones in return. Zhao Mu smiled quietly. With this amount, he wouldn't have to worry about running out of spirit stones for a long time. After that, he walked over to senior brother Wang Chan and sincerely thanked him. Ever since Zhao Mu entered the sect, Wang Chan had been the one guiding and helping him. Because of that, Zhao Mu took out a Qi refining pill and offered it to him. Wang Chan recognized it immediately and refused, saying it was far too valuable. Before he could say anything else, Zhao Mu directly stuffed the pill into his mouth, telling him to stop refusing and just swallow it. Wang Chan nearly choked in shock. Another notification appeared. He had given a first-grade Qi refining pill, triggering a 100-fold return, and obtained a second-grade foundation establishment pill. After coughing violently, Wang Chan looked at Zhao Mu differently. However, his expression quickly turned serious. He warned Zhao Mu that the forces backing Hu Cheng and Niu Tai were not small. It would be best for Zhao Mu to enter the outer sect as soon as possible and find reliable support. As chaos continued around them due to the spirit stones, Zhao Mu realized that this had already been his plan. Several hours later, inside the outer sect management hall, a man was refining pills over a massive cauldron, chanting incomprehensible words. He was the outer sect manager, Zhang Dingkun. Zhao Mu stepped inside and politely introduced himself as a disciple. Zhang Dingkun glanced at him coldly, then casually flicked his finger toward the flame. A burst of pressure disrupted the refinement process. Smoke filled the hall. Zhang Dingkun immediately flew into a rage, accusing Zhao Mu of breaking his concentration and ruining the refinement. He ordered Zhao Mu to leave at once. Zhao Mu froze, pointing at himself in confusion. In his mind, it was obvious this had been deliberate. Judging from the temperature alone, Zhang Dingkun hadn't been refining a purple qi pill at all. Zhao Mu couldn't help but wonder who was trying to make things difficult for him. Zhang Dingkun sat back down impatiently and demanded to know why Zhao Mu was still there, saying he didn't want to see his face. Zhao Mu smiled politely and told him not to worry. He calmly took out 50,000 spirit stones and offered them forward. Zhang Dingkun nearly choked, but immediately grabbed them, forcing a laugh. He said Zhao Mu must be there to process his outer sect disciple nameplate, and that he would handle it right away. Zhao Mu thanked him. Then, casually, Zhao Mu asked who was blocking his promotion to outer sect disciple. Zhang Dingkun turned his back and replied that he only accepted payment to solve problems, he didn't sell information. Zhao Mu chuckled softly and produced even more spirit stones, asking if this amount was enough. Zhang Dingkun paused, then accepted them and gestured for Zhao Mu to come closer. Without speaking, Zhang Dingkun used small stones to shape the outline of an animal. Zhao Mu immediately understood. Chu Zhaoran. Chu Zhaoran held a high position within the outer sect, with eyes and ears everywhere. If Zhao Mu stayed too long, he would inevitably be noticed. Zhang Dingkun turned away and said he hadn't mentioned anything. Zhao Mu understood the silent warning and thanked him. After leaving, Zhao Mu mounted his flying sword and departed. In his mind, he decided to seek out Lu Qi and temporarily hide at his place. When he arrived at the hidden palaces deep within the mountains, the very place Lu Qi had shown him before, he saw two men stepping out of the residence. They were from the Saint Yuan Demon Sect. One was the heavenly pride of the 5th rank, Long Tianxiang. The other was one of the 12 elders, Lu Haikong. As the two guests walked away side by side, Lu Haikong let out a soft laugh. In a light yet meaningful tone, he told Long Tianxiang that now that Li Qi had successfully stepped into the core formation stage, perhaps it was time to formally discuss the marriage alliance between their families. Long Tianxiang responded with a faint smile, saying he understood the elder's intention. He added that if he secured first place in this year's grand hunting competition, he would personally marry Lu Haikong's granddaughter. The elder's smile widened, clearly pleased, and he said he would be waiting for that day. From a distance, Zhao Mu immediately recognized the identity of the young man speaking with the elder. Once the two had left, Zhao Mu wasted no time and headed straight for Lu Qi's residence. When he arrived, he knocked and called out to his senior sister. The door opened quickly, and Lu Qi's face lit up the moment she saw him. After stepping inside, Zhao Mu did not beat around the bush. He directly asked whether Long Tianxiang had come to discuss marriage arrangements. Lu Qi's brows furrowed at once, and she coldly told him never to mention that name in front of her again, as she did not wish to hear it. Then she wrapped her arms around his arm and cheerfully asked why he had suddenly come to visit. Scratching his cheek awkwardly, Zhao Mu admitted that because of that woman, he had been blocked from entering the outer sect. Lu Qi's expression darkened with irritation. She declared that she had already reached core formation and, once she stabilized her cultivation, she would challenge that person within a few days. She added that her rapid breakthrough had been largely thanks to Zhao Mu. Overcome with emotion, she hugged him tightly. Zhao Mu was caught off guard and jokingly warned her that if she continued like that, he might not be able to restrain his pure energy. Lu Qi immediately replied that if that was the case, then he should not restrain it at all. Without hesitation, she removed her outer garments and openly stated that she wanted his help in cultivation. Zhao Mu feigned reluctance, but it did not take long before both of them were swept up in the moment and began cultivating together inside the room. Several hours later, Lu Qi fell asleep from exhaustion. Zhao Mu stretched and yawned, puzzled that he seemed to have gained little. Soon, a system notification appeared, informing him that he had successfully harvested pure energy and triggered a 50-fold return, slightly increasing his strength. However, another notice followed, stating that because Lu Qi's energy had been harvested multiple times, the reward multiplier had begun to decrease. Zhao Mu let out a sigh and understood that repeatedly investing in the same person reduced the return. For a brief moment, he considered that if he could cultivate with several senior sisters at once, perhaps the drop rate of his system would increase. The logic was sound, but he decided to put that thought aside for now. He sat down and began cultivating with spirit stones. In his view, strength was the only true rule in this world, and he needed to advance quickly. Before long, the system notified him that he had broken through to the Foundation Establishment 3rd layer, followed shortly by the 4th layer. However, he soon realized that all of his spirit stones had been consumed, and he had not yet reached the 5th layer. At that moment, he understood just how resource-hungry his sacred body truly was. Suddenly, he sensed a strange presence. A shadow seemed to move outside his room. He immediately opened the window to investigate, only to come face to face with Lady Zixuan. Startled, he nearly stepped back as she entered without hesitation. There was a trace of anger in her voice as she told him to address her simply by name. Zhao Mu forced a polite smile and asked what he could do for her and why she had come in person. Lady Zixuan did not answer right away. Her gaze slowly swept over his bare upper body, and she even pointed at his chest. Without pretense, she stated that she also wanted his pure energy to assist her cultivation. Zhao Mu was stunned and instinctively stepped back, cautiously asking if she was joking. He explained that in the later stages, the harvest technique became less efficient and that she might not need his help. At that, anger flashed in Lady Zixuan's eyes, and a blazing purple aura erupted from her body. The overwhelming spiritual pressure bore down on Zhao Mu, nearly forcing him onto the bed. He could not help but wonder what level of power this presence represented. Standing with her hands on her hips, Lady Zixuan coldly ordered him to stop making excuses and simply answer whether he was willing or not. Zhao Mu winced when she stepped on his chest but forced a smile and said that if that was her wish, of course he was willing. Inwardly, he silently vowed that one day he would repay this humiliation. Half joking, he asked what position she preferred for proper harvesting. A faint blush crept onto Lady Zixuan's cheeks and ears, but she did not respond. Instead, she opened a purple portal and told him to stop asking unnecessary questions. In the next instant, they were pulled into the portal and transported to the purple sky cave abode. Zhao Mu briefly admired the surroundings, but Lady Zixuan immediately ordered him to follow her. As they walked, she explained that this was her secluded cultivation site and that no one would disturb them there. Taking her words at face value, Zhao Mu began removing his trousers, only for her to sharply ask what he was doing. He replied that he was cooperating with the harvest process. Her face flushed red as she told him he did not need to undress because she had her own method. Zhao Mu scratched his head and joked that it sounded as though she intended to take the lead, though in his experience, mutual cooperation was more effective. Before he could finish speaking, his mouth was suddenly covered and his body bound to a wooden structure. Lady Zixuan stepped closer and, in a cold yet steady tone, told him to close his eyes and assist with cultivation. She added calmly, but with unmistakable warning, that if he did not comply, it would not end well for him.
As the two guests walked away side by side, Lu Haikong let out a soft laugh. In a light yet meaningful tone, he told Long Tianxiang that now that Li Qi had successfully stepped into the core formation stage, perhaps it was time to formally discuss the marriage alliance between their families. Long Tianxiang responded with a faint smile, saying he understood the elder's intention. He added that if he secured first place in this year's grand hunting competition, he would personally marry Lu Haikong's granddaughter. The elder's smile widened, clearly pleased, and he said he would be waiting for that day. From a distance, Zhao Mu immediately recognized the identity of the young man speaking with the elder. Once the two had left, Zhao Mu wasted no time and headed straight for Lu Qi's residence. When he arrived, he knocked and called out to his senior sister. The door opened quickly, and Lu Qi's face lit up the moment she saw him. After stepping inside, Zhao Mu did not beat around the bush. He directly asked whether Long Tianxiang had come to discuss marriage arrangements. Lu Qi's brows furrowed at once, and she coldly told him never to mention that name in front of her again, as she did not wish to hear it. Then she wrapped her arms around his arm and cheerfully asked why he had suddenly come to visit. Scratching his cheek awkwardly, Zhao Mu admitted that because of that woman, he had been blocked from entering the outer sect. Lu Qi's expression darkened with irritation. She declared that she had already reached core formation and, once she stabilized her cultivation, she would challenge that person within a few days. She added that her rapid breakthrough had been largely thanks to Zhao Mu. Overcome with emotion, she hugged him tightly. Zhao Mu was caught off guard and jokingly warned her that if she continued like that, he might not be able to restrain his pure energy. Lu Qi immediately replied that if that was the case, then he should not restrain it at all. Without hesitation, she removed her outer garments and openly stated that she wanted his help in cultivation. Zhao Mu feigned reluctance, but it did not take long before both of them were swept up in the moment and began cultivating together inside the room. Several hours later, Lu Qi fell asleep from exhaustion. Zhao Mu stretched and yawned, puzzled that he seemed to have gained little. Soon, a system notification appeared, informing him that he had successfully harvested pure energy and triggered a 50-fold return, slightly increasing his strength. However, another notice followed, stating that because Lu Qi's energy had been harvested multiple times, the reward multiplier had begun to decrease. Zhao Mu let out a sigh and understood that repeatedly investing in the same person reduced the return. For a brief moment, he considered that if he could cultivate with several senior sisters at once, perhaps the drop rate of his system would increase. The logic was sound, but he decided to put that thought aside for now. He sat down and began cultivating with spirit stones. In his view, strength was the only true rule in this world, and he needed to advance quickly. Before long, the system notified him that he had broken through to the Foundation Establishment 3rd layer, followed shortly by the 4th layer. However, he soon realized that all of his spirit stones had been consumed, and he had not yet reached the 5th layer. At that moment, he understood just how resource-hungry his sacred body truly was. Suddenly, he sensed a strange presence. A shadow seemed to move outside his room. He immediately opened the window to investigate, only to come face to face with Lady Zixuan. Startled, he nearly stepped back as she entered without hesitation. There was a trace of anger in her voice as she told him to address her simply by name. Zhao Mu forced a polite smile and asked what he could do for her and why she had come in person. Lady Zixuan did not answer right away. Her gaze slowly swept over his bare upper body, and she even pointed at his chest. Without pretense, she stated that she also wanted his pure energy to assist her cultivation. Zhao Mu was stunned and instinctively stepped back, cautiously asking if she was joking. He explained that in the later stages, the harvest technique became less efficient and that she might not need his help. At that, anger flashed in Lady Zixuan's eyes, and a blazing purple aura erupted from her body. The overwhelming spiritual pressure bore down on Zhao Mu, nearly forcing him onto the bed. He could not help but wonder what level of power this presence represented. Standing with her hands on her hips, Lady Zixuan coldly ordered him to stop making excuses and simply answer whether he was willing or not. Zhao Mu winced when she stepped on his chest but forced a smile and said that if that was her wish, of course he was willing. Inwardly, he silently vowed that one day he would repay this humiliation. Half joking, he asked what position she preferred for proper harvesting. A faint blush crept onto Lady Zixuan's cheeks and ears, but she did not respond. Instead, she opened a purple portal and told him to stop asking unnecessary questions. In the next instant, They were pulled into the portal and transported to the Purple Sky Cave abode. Zhao Mu briefly admired the surroundings, but Lady Zixuan immediately ordered him to follow her. As they walked, she explained that this was her secluded cultivation site and that no one would disturb them there. Taking her words at face value, Zhao Mu began removing his trousers, only for her to sharply ask what he was doing. He replied that he was cooperating with the harvest process. Her face flushed red as she told him he did not need to undress because she had her own method. Zhao Mu scratched his head and joked that it sounded as though she intended to take the lead, though in his experience, mutual cooperation was more effective. Before he could finish speaking, his mouth was suddenly covered and his body bound to a wooden structure. Lady Zixuan stepped closer and, in a cold yet steady tone, told him to close his eyes and assist with cultivation. She added calmly, but with unmistakable warning, that if he did not comply, it would not end well for him.
After Zixuan tied him up, she did not hesitate before dropping Zhao Mu into the steaming hot spring. The saintess stood at the edge, her posture calm yet commanding, and instructed him to cleanse himself properly. Zhao Mu complied in silence and respectfully said he would follow her instructions. As he soaked in the water, he could not help but feel that the situation was strangely unreal. Everything seemed slightly detached from logic, as if events were moving in a direction he had not anticipated. Before he could dwell on the thought, Zixuan silenced him with a single glance. A powerful surge of energy flowed from her hand and instantly wrapped around his body. In the blink of an eye, he was transferred from the hot spring to a bed inside the chamber. Zhao Mu could not hide his surprise. With his hands still bound, he could barely move. It became clear to him that the saintess possessed strength comparable to that of a holy knight. In his current state, he had no ability to resist her authority. A sudden presence near him made him open his eyes fully. Standing before him were two young women with flushed cheeks and unusual features, soft pink hair and fox-like ears that gave them an otherworldly appearance. Instinctively, he asked where the saintess was. The two introduced themselves as an Lele and an Yuan Yuan. They explained that they had been created by their master and were tasked with gathering red yang power. They even asked whether there was something lacking about them, sensing his hesitation. According to them, if he cooperated, everything would be completed within 2 hours. Zhao Mu fell into thought. It seemed that Zixuan intended to delegate the extraction of his red yang power to others. The mention of a 2-hour limit felt almost like an underestimation of him. With that in mind, he exerted strength, broke free from the restraints, and grasped in Yuan Yuan's arm, making it clear that he was not someone to be treated lightly. Seeing this, Lele quickly stepped forward and asked him not to be too forceful with her sister. Yet when her eyes met Zhao Mu's steady gaze, she too fell silent. What followed was a prolonged session of dual cultivation that lasted for several hours. Zixuan gradually grew impatient, wondering why the process was taking so long. When it finally ended, Lele and Yuan Yuan could barely stand. Their movements were slow, and exhaustion was evident. Zhao Mu, on the other hand, returned to the hot spring to cleanse himself once more. As he immersed himself in the water, he noticed something unusual. The hot spring seemed to strengthen his red yang power instead of draining it. Even though the process had taken longer than expected, he did not feel weakened. After some time, the two young women approached Zixuan and knelt before her. They admitted that they had not fulfilled their task as efficiently as planned and presented the red yang power they had collected. They explained that Zhao Mu's constitution was exceptionally strong, which had extended the duration. Zixuan replied that she had witnessed what happened and that they should not blame themselves. She instructed them to leave the red yang liquid behind and rest to recover their strength. The two obeyed quietly and withdrew. Afterward, Zixuan approached Zhao Mu. She asked him whether what he had displayed was sufficient. Her response was brief and clear: yes, it was acceptable. She then handed him his compensation: 10 million spirit stones and 4 bottles of top-grade foundation establishment pills. Zhao Mu could not conceal his satisfaction as he accepted them. Once he had finished preparing to leave, Zixuan noticed that he was still standing there and asked what he was waiting for. He paused briefly before suggesting that if she wished to make the extraction of red yang power even more effective in the future, it could be done directly or through dual cultivation. Zixuan's expression darkened with irritation. She ordered him to leave immediately. With a flick of her finger, Zhao Mu vanished from the spot and was transferred elsewhere. Moments later, he found himself at Lu Qi's residence. He let out a quiet sigh, reflecting that the saintess was indeed difficult to predict. Soon after, a notification appeared, informing him that his red yang power had significantly aided Zixuan, resulting in an increase in the level of his red yang sacred body. Without delay, he began cultivating. Energy gathered around him. and he could clearly feel his strength advancing. A faint smile formed on his lips. His assumption had been correct. Greater rewards came when others were involved. Meanwhile, Zixuan began refining the red yang liquid. She hoped it would prove beneficial to her own cultivation. As she processed the energy, memories of what had occurred resurfaced. She gave a slight shake of her head, reminding herself not to allow such matters to interfere with her progress. Not far away, Lele and Yuan watched quietly, wondering whether Zhao Mu's red yang liquid had produced any unusual effect on the saintess. The following morning at Lu Qi's home, Lu Qi woke early and noticed Zhao Mu already immersed in cultivation. She approached him and teasingly remarked that he seemed to have become even more diligent. Zhao Mu smiled and replied that he had simply felt a spark of inspiration for his next breakthrough. Encouraged by that, Lu Qi energetically suggested that now that his level had improved, perhaps it was time for them to attempt the climbing heavenly road together.
On climbing heaven road, the ancient secret realm of the Saint Yuan Demon Sect, a massive 12-tiered purple portal stood tall. Normally, anyone who could reach the third level had enough ability to enter the top 100 of the outer sect heavenly pride rank. From the third level onward, great demons in the core formation realm would begin to appear. Zhao Mu and Lu Qi arrived there together. According to Lu Qi, Chu Zhaoran was currently ranked 9th on the outer sect heavenly pride rank and could remain on the 4th level for the time it took an incense stick to burn. Zhao Mu said there was no need for Chu Zhaoran to do that for him. But Lu Qi replied that it wasn't for Zhao Mu, it was for herself. People often said that Chu Zhaoran was the female cultivator with the greatest potential in the outer sect, but Lu Qi disagreed. She wanted to prove which race was truly superior, the human race or the demon race. Zhao Mu fell into thought. Even though the Saint Yuan Demon Sect treated humans and demons equally, conflict and competition between the two races were unavoidable. Casually, he told Lu Qi that he was now an outer sect disciple as well, so it was only natural that they could go together. Lu Qi was clearly pleased to hear that. As they approached the massive purple portal, 4 figures suddenly emerged from within. They looked frustrated, saying that the monsters on the 3rd level of climbing heaven road were overwhelmingly strong. They couldn't understand how the heavenly pride managed to get past them. But then again, if they weren't extraordinary, how could they be called heavenly pride? 3 of them quickly bowed in respect when senior brother Niu Tai appeared. They praised his recent results on climbing heaven road, saying his rank had risen to 47th place. At this rate, they said, it was only a matter of time before he entered the top 10 of the outer sect heavenly pride rank. Someone asked how he had suddenly become so powerful in recent days. Niu Tai laughed confidently and said it was the result of his talent and hard work. But he suddenly stopped when he sensed a presence nearby. Turning his head, he saw Chu Zhaoran. In a sharp voice, Chu Zhaoran told Niu Tai not to forget who had helped him raise his cultivation and ordered him to hurry up with what he had been told to do. Niu Tai immediately straightened up and repeatedly agreed. Then his attention shifted to Zhao Mu and Lu Qi. He walked over and asked Lu Qi if she was planning to climb climbing heaven road with that handsome man who relied on women to survive. With a smile, Lu Qi asked who he meant by that handsome man. He had heard that this man had humiliated him. His expression darkened as he claimed that Zhao Mu had taken advantage of the chaos before to launch a sneak attack on him. In a calm tone, Zhao Mu replied that losers shouldn't make a scene. He then told Lu Qi that they had something to do and should head to climbing heaven road. Hearing that, Niu Tai cursed angrily. Red energy burst from his body as he slammed his fist into the ground, then charged straight at Zhao Mu. Zhao Mu dodged, but Niu Tai suddenly threw out a glowing red token. Within moments, a red barrier formed around them, enclosing only the 2 of them inside. A notification appeared. Our disciple Niu Tai has issued a sparring challenge to Zhao Mu. Accept or decline. Zhao Mu smiled, while concern was evident on Lu Qi's face. She advised him not to accept the challenge. Niu Tai's cultivation had increased significantly, and Zhao Mu shouldn't fall for the provocation. But Zhao Mu answered with a smile, telling his senior sister not to worry, he knew his limits. He stepped closer to Niu Tai and said that if it was just a simple sparring match, that would be too boring. Why not add a wager? Niu Tai agreed immediately. If he lost, he would return the 2nd level flying sword. In exchange, Zhao Mu put up the storage ring he was wearing as his stake. Once they came to terms, the system announced that the challenge was now in effect. The surrounding crowd stirred and asked if there was a challenge match in the plaza. Someone said they had heard that Niu Tai was fighting that handsome guy from the servant courtyard. Others quickly recognized that it was Zhao Mu, who had just been promoted to outer disciple. Another person said they had heard that Zhao Mu possessed a pure yang constitution, and that nearly all the female cultivators in the outer sect who practiced the nine-ling divine art had been involved with him. It was enviable, they said. Others sneered that he had sold his body for status and was a disgrace to the Saint Yuan Demon Sect. Lu Qi was annoyed by what she heard, but there was nothing she could do. Suddenly, Chu Zhaoran spoke. So that's why junior brother Zhao was always distracted whenever she went to see him. He had little girlfriends like Lu Qi, it seemed. It was good she found out. She laughed at Lu Qi and said that for a bird that tried to escape, the best ending was to be trapped and die by its own hand. Then she ordered Niu Tai to use his full strength. She didn't care about life or death. He was not to waste the opportunity she had given him. Niu Tai replied that he would not disappoint her. As he approached Zhao Mu, he released even greater energy and pressure. Lu Qi grew anxious and told Zhao Mu to be careful. Wrapped in blazing red energy, Niu Tai leapt forward at high speed and attacked. The collision produced a loud explosion, and thick dust filled the red barrier. One onlooker exclaimed that it was the after-image step. Another added that Niu Tai had always been known for his strength, and now that he had learned the after-image step, his power had doubled. Others said he was already worthy of being an expert within the top 100 of the outer sect heavenly pride rank. Some declared that Zhao Mu was finished and that this might be the fastest challenge match in the history of the Saint Yuan Demon Sect. If Niu Tai didn't hold back, Zhao Mu might not survive. Chu Zhaoran commented coldly, asking if they saw that. That was the consequence of insulting her. Lu Qi grew even angrier, but before she could speak, Chu Zhaoran said it was a pity about Zhao Mu. If he had just obediently been her dog, he might have lived a little longer. She was about to turn away when someone suddenly asked what had just happened. Zhao Mu had blocked the attack. Others questioned whether they were seeing things correctly. It was truly astonishing. Was the pure yang constitution really that powerful? Through the dust, Zhao Mu could be seen gripping Niu Tai's horn with both hands. Niu Tai was nearly kneeling in front of him, asking how this was possible. There was a hint of mockery in Zhao Mu's voice as he asked whether Niu Tai hadn't eaten enough. Was that all the strength behind his punch? Niu Tai had nothing to say except curses. Seeing this, Chu Zhaoran angrily shouted at Niu Tai, calling him an idiot and ordering him to hurry and take the pill she had given him. Niu Tai immediately pulled out the red pill, saying Zhao Mu had forced him to do this. He swallowed it, and moments later, an even more intense presence erupted from him. He nearly screamed under the surge of power. Zhao Mu quickly stepped back. Niu Tai's body gradually changed as his minotaur form activated. Crimson energy poured out of him as he declared that he would show Zhao Mu his strongest form.
Zhao Mu cursed as he took in the beastly form standing before him. He could hardly believe the sudden transformation of his opponent. On the other side, Lu Qi screamed at Chu Zhaoran, her voice dripping with anger as she called the move incredibly cunning. She even accused Chu Zhaoran of helping Niu Tai cheat to win the fight. Instead of getting angry, Chu Zhaoran simply smiled. She calmly asked how any of this could be considered cheating, explaining that the demon spirit pill only served to temporarily awaken the dormant power of the demon bloodline. According to her, this was a natural ability of their race that the pill merely stimulated. Meanwhile, Niu Tai braced himself, a red aura blazing around his entire body. He looked more savage than ever as he roared at Zhao Mu, promising that he would make sure the boy died right then and there. He vowed that by the end of the fight, not a single piece of Zhao Mu's body would be left intact. Without wasting another second, he unleashed his after-image strike. In a blur, he lunged toward Zhao Mu with terrifying speed. The crowd gasped. Most couldn't even follow his movement clearly. Murmurs rippled through the audience as people wondered if this was the power of Niu Tai's fully awakened barbaric ox bloodline. Despite the mounting tension, Zhao Mu remained calm, even wearing a slight smile. He dodged Niu Tai's attack with the ease of someone playing a game. However, even with the successful dodge, Niu Tai's speed was so great that the resulting wind pressure tore Zhao Mu's sleeve and left a shallow cut on his arm. Because Zhao Mu stepped aside at the last second, Niu Tai couldn't stop his momentum. He crashed violently into the portal wall. A deafening boom echoed through the arena. The impact was so massive it felt like a small earthquake, sending tremors through the ground that everyone could feel. The spectators were stunned. They couldn't understand how a cultivator still in the Foundation establishment realm could possess such overwhelming power. Even if they were at the same cultivation level, everyone knew that the raw physical strength of the demon race was far superior to that of an average human. As the smoke cleared, Niu Tai was seen clutching his head, screaming in frustration. Consumed by rage, he gathered the flaming energy throughout his body once more, shouting that he wouldn't let Zhao Mu escape this time. He lunged forward again. But this time, Zhao Mu was ready. He quietly gathered golden energy around his body. Grinning, he admitted that Niu Tai was indeed strong, but told the bull it was time to see his true power. Intense golden energy began to pool in his fist, and his eyes sharpened as his aura intensified. He met Niu Tai's heavy assault head-on. At the exact moment of impact, Zhao Mu unleashed a devastating punch. The force was so immense that it shattered Niu Tai's horn before slamming directly into his face. The impact sent Niu Tai flying through the air before he crashed into the ground and skidded across the floor. Chu Jioran stood frozen, unable to believe what she was seeing. She stared in shock as Niu Tai lay there, completely unconscious. The crowd erupted into chaos. In a single move, Niu Tai had been defeated, even after his demonic transformation. Everyone began to wonder if the Pyryang constitution was really this powerful, and many questioned when Zhao Mu had managed to break through to the Foundation establishment realm, as he seemed even stronger than Niu Tai. Lu Qi was thrilled. She rushed over to congratulate Zhao Mu, telling him she knew she hadn't misjudged him. On the other hand, Chu Jioran was visibly annoyed. She called Niu Tai trash, and ordered her men to go pick him up. But before they could get close, Zhao Mu stepped forward and stopped them. The three men shook with rage. One of them barked that Niu Tai had already lost, so what more did Zhao Mu want? He challenged the boy, saying that even if they killed the bull, he would go down with his head held high. Zhao Mu just smiled. He told them he was a fair person, then pulled out a bag containing 10,000 spirit stones and handed it over. He told them to consider it payment for the medical expenses from the mess they had caused. One of the men muttered that Zhao Mu was incredibly arrogant, realizing the boy was only paying them to further humiliate Niu Tai. Meanwhile, some of the spectators cursed in envy, saying they would let anyone do whatever they wanted to them for 10,000 spirit stones. Others simply noted how handsome the pretty boy had become. Just then, a system notification appeared before Zhao Mu. Because he had given away the 10,000 stones, it triggered the 100-fold return, rewarding him with 1 million spirit stones. Zhao Mu felt a bit disappointed that it only triggered a 100-fold increase this time. Chu Jioran began to clap slowly. She approached Zhao Mu and told him he truly deserved to be the man she liked, and that she liked him even more now. She asked him to return to her side, promising to give him anything he desired. Zhao Mu roughly slapped her hand away and told her coldly that she wasn't worthy of him. Chu Jioran's face twisted in anger. A terrifying aura leaped from her as she demanded to know what he meant by that. Suddenly, Lu Qi stepped between them. She radiated blue energy as she stood her ground, telling Chu Jioran that Zhao Mu was a human being, not an object to be thrown away when she was finished with it. She pointed at Chu Jioran and declared that she would take on the climbing heaven road. She vowed to surpass Chu Jioran's rank and then challenge her to a fair fight. Without another word, she pulled Zhao Mu away, promising that she would personally settle the score for all the pain Chu Jioran had caused him. Before they entered the portal, Zhao Mu leaned in and told Lu Qi with a smile that she sounded really cool back there. Lu Qi's cheeks flushed slightly as she told him she was glad he noticed. Together, they stepped into the purple portal. Left behind, Chu Jioran exploded with a violent aura. She screamed curses at the two of them, vowing that she would never let them get away with this. While Chu Jioran was visible fuming, nearly biting her own finger in frustration, the crowd continued to gossip. One observer noted that she held the 9th rank in the Outer Sect's Heavenly Pride rank and was a rising star of the Fox clan. Another countered by bringing up Lu Qi, the granddaughter of the 12th elder, Lu Haikong. Her status was equally noble, and her beauty was said to rival Chu Jioran's in every way. The whispers grew louder as people realized these two top-tier beauties were seemingly locked in a jealous rivalry over Zhao Mu. Behind the crowd, Niu Ao turned away, his face twisted in irritation, especially after hearing someone remark that Zhao Mu was truly the most enviable man alive. The scene shifted to the holy land of 9 Dragon Sword Mount. Deep within a cave that resembled a mountain made of blades, Long Tianxiang sat in silent cultivation, radiating a dense purple aura. When his eyes snapped open, a flick of his finger sent his massive greatsword whistling through the air, slicing through the surrounding boulders with ease. He reflexively shielded himself as debris exploded in his direction. To him, the display was satisfactory. However, as the dust settled, he was surprised to find Niu Ao standing there, waiting to deliver a report. Niu Ao bowed respectfully, informing him of the rumors spreading through the Outer Sect, that junior sister Lu Qi was caught in a jealous spat with the Fox clan's Chu Jioran over a handsome newcomer. Niu Ao claimed he had come specifically to report this out of fear that it might tarnish Long Tianxiang's reputation. Long Tianxiang stood abruptly, erupting with a golden sword energy. He lashed out at Niu Ao, rebuking him for daring to interrupt his secluded cultivation over such a trivial matter. He unleashed a surge of golden energy toward Niu Ao, who immediately pleaded for mercy, promising to leave at once. But before Niu Ao could flee, Long Tianxiang commanded him to stop. Trembling, Niu Ao turned back to ask for further orders. Long Tianxiang didn't offer words. Instead, he sent a concentrated beam of golden energy directly into Niu Ao's body. The force sent Niu Ao crashing to the floor, writhing in sudden pain. Confused and hurting, Niu Ao gasped, asking why the senior brother had attacked him. With his eyes glowing and a purple aura swirling around him, Long Tianxiang told him to stop struggling and look at his chest. To Niu Ao's shock, a glowing sword emblem had been etched into his skin. Long Tianxiang turned his back, explaining that he had just bestowed a strand of his own sword intent. Niu Ao blinked in surprise, asking what the senior brother intended for him to do with it. Long Tianxiang glanced back coldly, remarking that there are always ants who fail to realize the vastness of the heavens and the earth. He gave a final, chilling order. Niu Ao was to use that power to eliminate Zhao Mu. With his piece said, Long Tianxiang took flight and vanished. Left behind, Niu Ao let out a low laugh of gratitude, feeling the raw golden power of the sword mark coursing through his veins. The scene shifted to the climbing heaven road, where Lu Qi and Zhao Mu had just entered. As they took in the mystical surroundings, Lu Qi explained that the path automatically records the number of floors a disciple manages to ascend. She noted that since this was Zhao Mu's first time, the trial would separate them, placing him in an isolated space. Zhao Mu nodded, beginning to understand the mechanics of the place. He opened his mouth to ask another question, but Lu Qi silenced him with a sudden, fleeting kiss. Before he could react, she stepped away, leaving him with a final, lingering warning to be careful. Touching his lips where her kiss had lingered, Zhao Mu murmured to himself that it was Lu Qi who should be cautious, not him. Suddenly, a thick, unnatural mist swallowed his surroundings. Within moments, the fog began to thin, revealing three looming threats. A massive black rooster with glowing red eyes, a rodent-like beast covered in needle-sharp quills, and a gargantuan toad. Without warning, the trio of monsters lunged at him simultaneously. Zhao Mu reacted instantly, leaping into the air to evade the initial strike. From his vantage point, he assessed his opponents. He realized with a start that even on the very first floor of the climbing heaven road, these demon beasts were already at the Foundation establishment realm. It became clear to him that no ordinary new outer disciple could hope to pass this trial easily. The quill-covered beast moved first, spinning its body like a cyclone and launching volleys of spikes. Zhao Mu weaved through the projectiles with fluid grace. Instead of feeling pressured, a confident smile played on his lips. He began channeling golden energy into his fist, declaring that it was time to strike back. The beast sensed the sudden, overwhelming surge of power emanating from him, but they were too slow to retreat. Zhao Mu's fist connected with a thunderous impact, sending all three monsters flying. They collapsed and drew their final breaths before they even hit the ground. Zhao Mu felt a flicker of disappointment. The encounter had been far too brief. Immediately after their defeat, a notification appeared, announcing his successful clearance of the first floor and offering him a choice of 3 rewards. 3 mystical items manifested before him. Without hesitation, he selected the yellow-rank high-grade technique, Burning Flame Palm. He had been concerned about his lack of combat techniques suited for his red yang sacred body. Finding this manual felt like being handed a pillow just as he was starting to feel drowsy, a perfect stroke of luck. He opened the manual and quickly scanned the requirements. First, one must draw in the true fire of the sun to circulate energy through the body. Then, harness the brilliance and scorching heat of the sun to empower the palm strike. Eager to test it, Zhao Mu unleashed his golden aura. As the energy surged, his palm began to glow with a fierce, crimson intensity. With a mere flick of his fingers, a trail of golden energy scorched the floor, leaving a path of destruction in its wake. He grinned, deeply impressed by the technique's raw power. At that moment, a shimmering staircase materialized in front of him, leading the way to the second floor.
At the third level of the climbing heaven road, a violent explosion of energy suddenly erupted in the center of the stage. This came from Lu Qi's devastating attack. With all her might, she unleashed a sharp horizontal slash that struck the giant minotaur, bringing it down in a single instant. After clearing the level, 3 reward options appeared before her. They hovered silently, waiting for her to choose which one would further enhance her strength. Meanwhile, outside the climbing heaven road, a massive crowd was glued to the large screen, watching every move of the participants. Before long, they noticed that Lu Qi had climbed into the top 50. She had surpassed the third level and was moving on to the fourth. This sparked a wave of conversation. According to the onlookers, the current leader of the outer sect Heavenly Pride, Nilang Chuang, had spent nearly 2 hours on the fourth level, a clear testament to its difficulty. Therefore, if senior sister Lu Qi could last even 15 minutes there, she would have a strong chance of breaking into the top 10. As the discussion continued, everyone's attention shifted to another name appearing on the Heavenly Pride ranking, Zhao Mu. Many were shocked to see that he had already entered the top 1000 after finishing only the first level. This meant his clearance time was incredibly fast. To most, it was clear that Zhao Mu's strength was extraordinary. Some even remarked that if he had defeated Niu Tai, the third level likely wouldn't be a hurdle for him. In their view, he was destined to go much further. On the other hand, Chu Jiaoran could not hide her irritation, cursing under her breath. She felt that Zhao Mu and Lu Qi had not slacked off in their dual cultivation training over the past few days. She could sense a shift in their power, something she found difficult to accept. While everyone was busy watching, a man with long hair and a unique, imposing presence arrived. He was recognized immediately, Nilang Chuang himself. The crowd was stunned by his arrival. Known as the number one among the outer sect's Heavenly Pride, he was said to possess the blood of a Qilin, making him both admired and feared. Some couldn't help but whisper. One person remarked that he was handsome but overly arrogant, while another muttered that he only relied on his royal bloodline. Hearing this, Nilang Chuang slowly turned and gave them a cold stare. In an instant, the two speakers were paralyzed with fear. Before they could even move, his arm underwent a physical transformation. Without hesitation, he struck the two, sending them flying. With no emotion on his face, he walked forward and spoke coldly. He despised those who spoke behind others' backs the most. Chu Jiaoran glared at him, her eyes sharp as she tried to discern his motive. Instead of a serious answer, Nilang Chuang smirked, saying he had heard her pet had run off with another woman, so he just stopped by to tease her. Upon hearing that, Chu Jiaoran's temper flared. Powerful purple energy surged from her hand as she lunged toward Nilang Chuang. However, Nilang Chuang remained calm, continuing to taunt her as if trying to escalate the situation further. Before their attacks could collide, a massive hand suddenly appeared and grabbed them both at the same time, halting their movements. Simultaneously, a heavy, oppressive presence enveloped the area. It was Niu Ao. His body had transformed, radiating immense energy. Those present recognized him instantly, the 8th rank in the inner sect Heavenly Pride ranking, at the peak of the core formation stage. With his arrival, the tension immediately dissipated. Chu Jiaoran gave a slight smile as she brushed off the hand holding her. She looked at Niu Ao and asked if he was there to avenge his cousin. Her tone was clearly provocative. She added, asking if he wasn't afraid of causing trouble, especially since Zhao Mu's girlfriend was the granddaughter of a powerful elder. Niu Ao replied without a second thought, stating with full confidence that he was acting under the direct orders of senior brother Long Shang. He then pointedly asked Chu Jiaoran if she honestly thought he would be intimidated. His tone made it clear that he would not back down, even if the situation escalated into a serious confrontation. Off to the side, Nilang Chuang gave a slight smirk. In a calm voice, he remarked that it seemed he hadn't shown up for nothing. To him, the situation had become far more interesting, a new disciple from the outer sect going up against an expert at the peak of the core formation stage. It was a rare sight, and he couldn't hide his intrigue regarding how it would unfold. But before the tension could fully boil over, someone suddenly shouted for everyone to check the rankings. All heads turned toward the large screen, where they saw that Zhao Mu had already broken into the top 200. Many were left in awe by the sheer speed of his ascent. They could hardly believe he had reached such a high position in such a short amount of time. Meanwhile, inside the climbing heaven road, Zhao Mu was currently on the 2nd level. Facing a fierce monster, he unhesitatingly unleashed his burning flame palm. With a powerful and precise strike, he brought the creature down instantly. After clearing the level, the 3 reward options appeared before him once more. He examined them one by one. To him, the saber technique wasn't particularly useful, and the origin nurturing pills seemed to have little value given his current strength. Ultimately, he chose the 2nd grade flying sword, the white jade glow. He summoned it immediately to inspect it. However, it didn't take long for him to realize it wasn't quite what he needed. He thought it would be better served if given to someone else who could truly benefit from it. Shortly after, the stairs leading to the 3rd level appeared. As he stepped inside, he paused for a moment. Before him stood a horde of giant monsters, all staring him down with eyes full of rage and aggression. For an average disciple, the sight alone would be enough to make them tremble in fear. But instead of being afraid, Zhao Mu simply smiled. He slowly gathered golden energy into his hands. In that moment, he understood why most outer sect disciples only reached the third level once they were already in the core formation stage. The strength required to face this many enemies at once was no joke. Nevertheless, since he was already there, he decided to test his limits. Even if he couldn't clear this level, he wanted to see just how far his abilities could take him. In a flash, he concentrated a massive amount of energy into his palm and charged forward. Targeting one monster, he let loose a burning flame palm that dropped it instantly. But the fight was far from over. The other monsters moved in succession, launching a coordinated attack. One managed to close in and bite his leg, triggering a loud explosion of force. At first glance, it looked like he had been seriously injured, but the opposite was true. He was barely hurt. Instead, the monster's teeth shattered against the sheer toughness of his body. As he lay there for a brief second, Zhao Mu realized he had only sustained a minor scratch. He questioned himself, was this the true power of his red yang sacred body? A level of durability that ordinary attacks simply couldn't break. But he had no time to rest. The remaining monsters lunged at him again. He met them one by one, taking them down with every move. After a few moments, he slowly stood up, a faint smile playing on his lips. His eyes glowed with a red hue, while the golden aura surrounding his body grew even more intense, causing his hair to lift from the sheer pressure of the energy. He realized his situation wasn't so bad after all. With flames erupting from his palms, he bravely faced the remaining monsters. As the battle raged on, he began to grasp his true potential. If he utilized his indestructible body correctly, there was a real chance he could clear this level. Zhao Mu unleashed a series of scorching fire vortexes, one by one devouring the monsters surrounding him. With every swirl of the flames, his enemies fell in succession until only a single one remained before him. As the last creature was consumed by the intense heat, a slight smile played on Zhao Mu's lips, a clear sign of his confidence in his own power. But at that moment, he suddenly froze. From deep within his body, a surge of intense burning energy erupted, flowing through every vein and muscle. He fully realized then that by constantly immersing himself in the power of the red yang sacred body, his physical form had not only become resilient against attacks but had also gained an incredibly rapid healing factor. Enveloping his entire body once more in blazing red energy, his eyes shone with satisfaction as he watched the staircase to the next level slowly materialize. In his mind, he was certain he could challenge the fourth floor. Before he could ascend, however, a notification appeared. Having cleared the third level, he could choose one of 3 rewards. 3 items appeared before him. He examined them quietly and realized that the pills and magical treasures obtained within the climbing heaven road could not be used inside the trial itself. If he wanted to conquer the 4th level, he needed to select a new cultivation method. He chose a manual containing a new technique. Rather than rushing, he decided to study it first. He knew the climbing heaven road had no time limit, and it wouldn't be too late to challenge the 4th level once he had fully understood and mastered this skill. Meanwhile, outside the trial, the spectators were glued to the large screen, unable to believe their eyes. Some questioned if the data was glitched, but others quickly shut them down. The climbing heaven grand array was personally created by a great patriarch and had functioned perfectly for 8,000 years. The crowd was thrown into a frenzy when they saw Zhao Mu's name surge up to the 13th rank. People whispered in shock, wondering how he had achieved such a feat. They questioned what kind of monster Zhao Mu truly was to clear the 3rd level in such an impossibly short amount of time. Amidst the chatter, Chu Zhaoran's irritation was palpable. Her anger only grew as someone commented that despite his fast time, Zhao Mu's cultivation was only at the 5th layer of foundation establishment. Another added that even an early-stage core formation cultivator wouldn't be guaranteed such rapid results on the 3rd floor. Chu Zhaoran seethed, wondering what kind of fortuitous opportunity Zhao Mu had stumbled upon to grow this powerful so quickly. Beside her, Niu Ao let out a cold snort. To him, Zhao Mu was merely a member of the outer sect heavenly pride ranking. He spoke with biting sarcasm, remarking that the outer sect would always be just the outer sect, a place filled with worthless people. His heavy words caused a sudden silence to fall over the nearby crowd. The silence didn't last long, however, as someone shouted for everyone to look. Lu Qi had emerged from the climbing heaven road. A spectator noted that he had lasted a quarter of an hour on the 4th level, temporarily climbing to 9th place. Another pointed out that he had already surpassed Chu Jiaoran and was heading for the top ranks. The men nearby immediately swarmed Lu Qi with congratulations. But from the back, Chu Jiaoran spoke coldly, her voice dripping with annoyance. She remarked that Lu Qi had only moved up a few spots, so he had absolutely nothing to brag about. Lu Qi met her comment with a faint, effortless smile. His face remained expressionless as he nodded in agreement with Chu Jiaoran. True, I only moved up a few spots, he admitted coolly. But it was just enough to pass a certain nuisance. Chu Jiaoran was momentarily stunned into silence. Her brow furrowed as she struggled to keep her temper in check. After a heartbeat, she forced a haughty smirk, acting as if she couldn't care less. To her, Lu Qi surpassing her meant nothing. She gestured toward Niu Ao standing beside her, an expert from the inner sect, and challenged Lu Qi, wondering aloud if he could actually protect Zhao Mu from someone of that caliber. Lu Qi remained silent, but his eyes betrayed a deep, calculating focus as he sized up Niu Ao. It slowly clicked in his mind. This was Niu Tai's cousin. He realized that Niu Ao's presence was likely a direct response to what had happened to Niu Tai. If that was the case, Zhao Mu was in grave danger. Meanwhile, inside the climbing heaven road, Zhao Mu continued his deep cultivation. When his eyes finally snapped open, a bolt of purple lightning flickered within one iris. He raised his hand, channeling the purple lightning entanglement. A violent surge of violet energy erupted from his palm, causing a tremor so intense it shattered the floor before him. He realized then that lightning attribute cultivation was no simple task. Had it not been for his advanced ability to compress energy, he wouldn't have grasped even the basics in such a short window. Looking at the scorched arena, he noted the massive area of effect. This would be a game changer when facing multiple foes. Standing up, he took a breath. He had rested enough. He began the steady climb up the stairs toward the 4th level, wondering what kind of nightmare awaited him. The moment he stepped onto the 4th floor, a suffocating pressure hit him. Before him stood a gargantuan creature resembling a predatory cat, wreathed in roaring flames and snarling with hunger. It was a fierce beast capable of crushing even seasoned cultivators. Before he could fully brace himself, the beast blurred. Its speed was legendary. In an instant, its claws raked across Zhao Mu's chest. He countered immediately with a burning flame palm, the light of his fire illuminating the entire chamber. But the beast was too fast. It dodged his technique with ease. Realizing he needed a different strategy, Zhao Mu decided to test his new lightning powers to see if he could paralyze the creature's movements. He managed to land a lightning strike, momentarily staggering the beast. Seizing the opening, he charged forward with another burning flame palm, shouting for the creature to taste his full power. Yet, the beast defied physics, twisting its body midair to evade him once more. Instead of fear, a grin spread across Zhao Mu's face. He knew his purple lightning entanglement was his true trump card, and at this range, the beast had nowhere to run. He unleashed the attack directly at the monster. But the beast was a blur of impossible speed. It didn't just dodge, it struck back with lethal precision. Before Zhao Mu could even register the movement, his arm had been severed. The pain forced him to his knees. He looked up, watching as the beast stood a few feet away, gnawing on his severed limb. In that grim moment, he whispered to himself that this might be the end. The beast had won. Suddenly, a notification flashed before his eyes. It delivered a message that defied all logic. Because you have fed yourself to a demon beast, the 10,000-fold return has been activated. Zhao Mu watched in disbelief as his severed arm began to regrow instantly, encased in a shimmering golden energy. A violent, celestial fire erupted across his entire body, and his eyes blazed with a light far more intense than before. The final notification chimed. Congratulations, you have achieved the human emperor bloodline. Zhao Mu was left in a state of absolute shock by the 10,000-fold reward he had just received. He now possessed the human emperor bloodline. According to ancient legends, when the heavens and earth were first created, 100 races emerged simultaneously, and powerful warlords fought bitterly for dominance. There came a point when the human race grew so weak that it faced total extinction. In that desperate moment, a group of peerless human experts arose. They tempered their bodies and bloodlines to the absolute limit, achieving a combat power that was nearly invincible. Because of them, humanity turned peril for safety, crushed their most formidable enemies, and ensured the survival of the human lineage. Zhao Mu vowed to himself that one day, he too would walk among the stars and wipe out every invader that dared to challenge his people. With a simple flick of his hand, Zhao Mu triggered a massive explosion directly in front of him. The monster's face twisted in shock as it witnessed the sheer destruction of the strike, which had nearly torn a hole through the floor. Zhao Mu looked at the small leopard creature and asked if it truly wished to continue the fight. The beast let out a low growl and lunged at him with blinding speed once more. At that moment, however, Zhao Mu noticed that the creature's movements seemed to have slowed down significantly. He evaded the initial attack without any effort. With his palm glowing brightly, he delivered a powerful strike that sliced through the center of the monster's body, killing it instantly. Zhao Mu let out a heavy sigh as he looked down at the leopard's remains. Immediately after, a notification appeared informing him that since he had cleared the 4th level, he could choose one of 3 rewards. The options manifested before him: a 4th rank wind walk skill, a 4th rank artifact called the Frostfall Sphere, and a black rank mid-grade technique known as the Great Steel Cleaving Hand. He carefully examined each one and realized they were all high-quality items. However, he was restricted to picking only one. Without hesitation, he made his choice, intending to eventually give it to someone else. He then began to walk slowly toward the next set of stairs, thinking to himself that the people outside must be in an absolute frenzy over the abilities he had displayed. Outside the climbing heaven road, the spectators were indeed struggling to believe what they were seeing. Someone shouted and pointed at the screen, noting that Zhao Mu's rank had changed yet again. On the massive display, his name appeared clearly in the number 1 spot. The crowd was stunned into silence as they realized that Zhao Mu was now the top-ranked fighter in the Outer Sect Heavenly Pride ranking. A look of pure joy spread across Lu Qi's face, knowing that Zhao Mu had lived up to his highest expectations. On the other hand, Chu Jiaoren was reeling, unable to accept how such a result was even possible. To her, it seemed impossible for Zhao Mu to become the number 1 in the Outer Sect under these conditions. Meanwhile, Niu Ao spoke with a cold, threatening tone. He remarked that for someone to reach the top rank while only at the 5th layer of Foundation establishment was unheard of, and he declared that he would use his full power later to completely crush Zhao Mu. When Zhao Mu entered the 5th level of the climbing heaven road, he stopped dead in his tracks. Standing before him were 5 massive monsters radiating an overwhelming presence. He immediately realized that these were 5 mid-stage core formation great demons. He thought to himself that the difficulty of this trial had reached an absurd level. As the monsters began to close in, Zhao Mu raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. He told them there was no need for them to make a move because he knew his own limits. At that exact moment, one of the great demons lunged forward and attacked. Zhao Mu let out a soft chuckle and told the creatures not to be so impatient. His words seemed to confuse the great demons, leaving them momentarily speechless. He requested that they wait for him until he gained enough strength to challenge them properly once more. As he began to fade away, the demon's attack missed him completely because he had already chosen to forfeit the fight. He added that he believed it wouldn't be long before they met again. At that moment, his form completely vanished from within the climbing heaven road. Outside, a brilliant portal appeared, signaling his exit and catching many spectators by surprise. When Zhao Mu finally stepped out, he noticed the massive crowd and jokingly asked with a smile if everyone was there just to welcome him back. However, in a flash, Niu Ao landed violently in front of him. With a smirk, Niu Ao declared that Zhao Mu had finally shown his face and that he had been waiting a long time for this. Suddenly, Lu Qi and Chu Jiaoren stepped between them. Lu Qi warned him to be careful, noting that Niu Ao was ranked 8th in the Inner Sect Heavenly Pride ranking. Meanwhile, Chu Jiaoren urged him to run, saying they would handle Niu Ao themselves. Zhao Mu was surprised by the scene and immediately said that while he appreciated Lu Qi's help, he was confused as to why Chu Jiaoren was interfering. Chu Jiaoren glanced back briefly and replied that she had her own reasons. This display only fueled Niu Ao's rage. To him, the fact that Chu Jiaoren and Lu Qi were protecting Zhao Mu was proof that influential figures had already noticed the boy's potential. He couldn't afford to wait any longer, he had to kill Zhao Mu before the elders arrived. Niu Ao charged with all his might, shoving Lu Qi and Chu Jiaoren aside with a force that nearly sent them flying. He screamed that no one could stop him from avenging his cousin. Instead of showing fear, Zhao Mu prepared himself. Within moments, he stood tall with a smile as a golden energy radiated from his entire body. He calmly remarked that his warm-up was over and he was now ready to experience the true power of a peak core formation expert. He met Niu Ao's attack head-on using the power of his human emperor bloodline. When their forces collided, a massive explosion of energy rocked the area. The intensity of the impact left bystanders wondering how someone at the 5th layer of Foundation establishment could directly clash with a peak core formation expert. Some even whispered that the light surrounding Zhao Mu was surely the human emperor bloodline in action. As the smoke from the blast slowly cleared, Zhao Mu was revealed, smiling calmly while effortlessly blocking Niu Ao's powerful punch with just one hand. With a confident tone, he remarked that when it comes to raw strength, it wasn't even certain that senior brother Niu Ao could defeat him. Niu Ao was utterly shocked, unable to fathom how many secrets Zhao Mu was hiding. At that point, he decided to stop holding back. He violently shoved Zhao Mu's hand away, and a golden sword slowly began to emerge from his chest. Seeing this, Lu Qi screamed for Zhao Mu to run immediately. Shock and worry were etched across Chu Jiaoren's face as well. At the same time, Niu Ao roared for Zhao Mu to die, claiming that dying by such a technique was a worthy way for his life to end. In an instant, the golden sword was pointed directly at Zhao Mu's face. In a split second, the golden sword buried in Niu Ao's chest transformed into a violent, thrashing dragon, forcing Zhao Mu to spring backward with caution. It was then he realized this power was actually a lingering sword intent purposefully left behind by Long Tianxiang. Gathering every ounce of strength remaining in his body, Zhao Mu braced himself against the brutal assault, roaring in fury as he unleashed the full might of his human emperor bloodline. The collision was so devastating and the pressure so immense that blood began to stream from his eyes, nose, and mouth all at once. A shaking explosion followed, echoing through the air. Overcome with worry, Lu Qi tried to rush forward to help, but Chu Jiaoren quickly held her back, stating firmly that it was useless. To her, the sword intent of a nascent soul cultivator was something no one at the Foundation establishment stage could ever hope to survive, and she was certain Zhao Mu had been reduced to nothing but ash. Internally, Chu Jiaoren cursed her luck, realizing her plans were now delayed and she had no way to fulfill her master's orders. As the smoke slowly began to clear, Niu Ao let out a short laugh and walked mockingly toward the center of the blast. He remarked coldly that this was the natural end for anyone foolish enough to challenge someone of a higher standing. Nearby, Lu Qi remained frozen, her face pale with terror and an overwhelming sense of dread for her companion's life. But through the thick shroud of dust, a faint cough suddenly caught everyone's attention. When the air finally cleared, Zhao Mu stood before them. Though he was covered in blood and had lost an arm, he still managed to flash a defiant, bold smirk. In a remarkably calm voice, he asked if that was really all the great Long Tianxiang's sword intent could do, mocking the attack for being underwhelming. Niu Ao stared in utter disbelief, unable to fathom how anyone could still be breathing after taking a hit of that magnitude head-on. Lu Qi rushed to Zhao Mu's side, her face a mix of pure shock and intense gratitude that he was still alive. However, the moment of relief was cut short as Niu Ao lunged forward to resume his attack, screaming that he would end the fight right then and there. Lu Qi tried to block him with her own blade, but Niu Ao shoved her aside with effortless strength, clearing his path. Niu Ao threw a massive, power-packed punch toward Zhao Mu, shouting for him to finally die. Zhao Mu saw the danger coming, but he realized his muscles were completely spent and he couldn't move an inch, forcing him to curse his helplessness internally. But just before the fist could connect, a sudden burst of intense purple energy slammed into Niu Ao, pinning him helplessly to the ground. Confused and trembling with rage, Niu Ao barked out a question, demanding to know who dared to interfere. From above, the Lady Saintess and Zixuan descended slowly and coldly, admitting she was the one responsible and asking Niu Ao if he had any complaints. Terrified, Niu Ao immediately dropped to his knees in respect, stammering that a lowly disciple like him would never dare to defy her, though he was dying to know why she had appeared. As Lady Saintess and Zixuan touched the ground, everyone present bowed their heads in a display of absolute respect. She then turned her attention to Zhao Mu, admitting that his sheer resilience had genuinely impressed her. Zhao Mu let out a soft chuckle as his severed arm began to shimmer and reshape itself, fully regrowing through his incredible regeneration. Right then and there, the Lady Saintess formally declared Zhao Mu as the official #1 of the Outer Sect Heavenly Pride. She remarked that while the title might seem minor to some, the fact that he reached such heights at his current cultivation level was almost hard to believe. She added that in the entire history of the Saint Yuan Demon Sect, Zhao Mu was the only person to ever achieve such a legendary feat. Zhao Mu humbly replied that it was all just a stroke of luck, but he was caught completely off guard when the Lady Saintess suddenly offered to take him on as her personal disciple. Before he could even give an answer, 3 figures were spotted streaking across the sky toward them. One of them shouted out, demanding to see the new human race heavenly pride who had emerged from the outer sect. The three elders quickly touched down, landing gracefully on their mystical weapons. One of the newcomers immediately warned Zhou Siliang not to even think about stealing this student. He boasted that he hadn't taken on a disciple in 800 years because he was waiting for a true human race genius. Zhou Siliang snapped back that he didn't care and insisted that such a rare talent belonged with him, while Fang Deng remained quiet, though he clearly had his own plans. In the middle of the bickering, a disciple whispered a question about who these old men were, only to be quickly hushed by a peer who warned him to watch his tongue. These were the prestigious human race elders of the Saint Yuan Demon Sect. Zhou Siliang spoke with intense passion as he faced the Lady Saintess, telling her she was overstepping her bounds. He argued that an unparalleled heavenly pride had finally risen from the human race, and there was no way he would let anyone snatch him away. He demanded to know how they could possibly allow the demon race to claim such a rare talent for themselves. Nearby, a spectator whispered that the fifth elder, Zhou Siliang, was a master of arrays with an incredibly deep knowledge of the craft. Meanwhile, the seventh elder, Fang Deng, released his own powerful energy, reminding the Lady Saintess that she already had her little monster, Mu Yuling, so she should step aside and let him have this new human prodigy. According to the rumors in the crowd, Fang Deng might not be known for raw combat power, but he was a famous and highly respected alchemist within the sect. Then, the third elder, Dugu Zan, cut into the conversation, asserting that in the world of cultivation, strength is the only true measure of worth. He made Zhao Mu a massive promise. If the young man accepted him as his master, he would give him a full set of grade 7 artifact armor and pass down his life's work, the battle heaven and earth art. Those who knew Dugu Zan's history shared that he was the man who used the heaven and earth battling technique to fight his way into the deepest part of the ancient absolute forbidden ground, which secured his spot as the third elder. Everyone realized that out of the 4 human race elders in the entire sect, 3 had shown up instantly just for one student. They were left in awe of Zhao Mu's talent, knowing that becoming a personal disciple to any of these powerful elders was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that would make anyone a legend. Fang Deng stepped forward and offered Zhao Mu a deal. If the young man chose him, he would give him his most precious alchemy furnace as a symbol of their bond. On the other side, Zhou Siliang challenged him to pick which of them he truly wanted to follow, while Dugu Zan reminded him that in their world, raw power is the only thing that truly matters. But Zhao Mu didn't hesitate. He threw out a bold, unexpected counter-offer, asking if he could simply choose all of them at once. The 3 elders stood frozen, completely stunned by his audacity, while Lady Saintess and Zixuan quickly chimed in, saying she had no objections and would leave the final decision to the seniors. The elders looked a bit conflicted, explaining just how difficult Zhao Mu's request really was. Zhou Siliang pointed out that mastering the art of arrays takes countless hours of deep study. Dugu Zan added that building combat strength requires non-stop, brutal training in the field. Fang Deng rounded it out by saying that becoming a top-tier alchemist demands total dedication that shouldn't be distracted by other crafts. However, Zhao Mu faced them with total confidence. He told them that since they clearly believed in his potential, he wouldn't let them down. He promised that if he could master their teachings in record time, he would prove he could handle all 3 paths simultaneously without falling behind in any of them. The 3 elders were once again left breathless by the young man's guts. Lady Saintess and Zixuan let out a small laugh and declared that if that was what Zhao Mu wanted, then they had a deal. She then excused herself, saying she was taking Niu Ao with her to hold him accountable for everything that had happened. As she took flight with her prisoner, Zhao Mu called out his thanks. He watched her go with a smile, thinking to himself that beneath her icy exterior, the Lady Saintess might actually have a kind heart. Before she got too far, Zhao Mu shouted one last thing, telling her that if she ever needed help with her own cultivation, he would be there to assist her without a second thought. The Lady Saintess paused midair, her cheeks turning slightly pink, and replied that they would discuss it the next time they met. But Zhou Siliang didn't give them another second. He grabbed Zhao Mu and told him to stop wasting time on small talk so they could start his array training immediately. A surge of pure purple energy wrapped around them, and they streaked away from the area. Zhao Mu didn't resist, but before they vanished from sight, he managed to call out to senior sister Lu Qi. He warned her to stay sharp, as Long Tianxiang might come looking for revenge. Lu Qi waved back, promising to be careful with every step she took. The crowd watched in total disbelief as Zhao Mu left under the protection of such powerful masters. In the corner, A demon cultivator swallowed hard, his face pale with fear. He was the one who had originally captured Zhao Mu, and he couldn't wrap his head around the fact that the boy he once treated as a prisoner was now the personal disciple of the sect's highest elders. Shaking with nerves, he realized there might be no place left for him in the Saint Yuan Demon Sect after making such a massive mistake.
The chapter ends here. Watch out for our upcoming uploads. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you'll always be updated on our future videos.